Wait a couple seconds. Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, January 28th, 2025, and it's 6 p.m. We'll call this session of West Hants Regional Municipality Council to order. We'll begin the evening with attendance. Clerk Snare.
Mayor Zabian,
Present.
Councillor Yonich has sent regrets, Chair. Councillor Scott McLean.
Here.
Councillor Remy. Here. Councillor Whedon.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Francis. Here. Councillor Bob Morton.
Present.
Councillor Larry Pinch.
Present.
Councillor Paul Morton.
Present.
Councillor Smith. John Smith.
Present.
Councillor Bonnie Smith.
Here.
Councillor Ivy.
Present.
Thank you very much, Clerk Snare. West Hants Regional Municipality recognizes that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and these lands are governed by the treaties of peace and friendship signed in 1726. We're all treaty people and have responsibilities to each other and this land. West Hants Regional Municipality also recognizes African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. Welcome back, Council. Hope you're all ready for an interesting evening that's full of lots of fun topics. In case of a fire alarm, we have a couple of people in attendance here. It's growing as we speak. We have an exit to either side of the room here, our left and right. We're going to make, in case of a fire alarm, we'll make our way out to either one. To my left, the audience is right out into the parking lot to the muster station. Please be safe and help each other and anybody who needs help. With that, Council, are there any announcements anybody wishes to make? Councillor Scott McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to put it out there. There's a breakfast at the Belmont Hall this Saturday at 7:30 a.m.
Perfect. Always a good one. Councillor Bonnie Smith.
Right. Just one quick one. The Windsor Daycare Center will be celebrating their 49th anniversary on February the 3rd this year. So not too much going on with it this year, but next year for their 50th, they're planning a big celebration.
There you go. Former alum of Windsor Daycare. So, Councillor Remy.
Just a couple of things there, and they have to do with the Winter Carnival. I'm sure somebody might be talking about that, but the Brooklyn Fire Department is putting on a family dance on February 8th, and the Sweets Corner Hall is having a family fun day on the 8th as well.
Perfect.
And Sweets Corner Hall is also doing a tax talk event on February 2nd.
Okay, nice. Good lead up to tax preparation season. On that line, Winter Carnival, there's a lot of events planned for, I think, February 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, Thursday to Sunday. Big event here at the sports complex, Winterpalooza Friday night. Free event for the whole family, starts at 6 p.m. Bouncy castles, face painting, characters running around, a little bit of everything. Bring it out. It's completely free. I think you can buy snacks and chips and popcorn for $1 each, all donated to the Inspire Fund. Councillor Larry Pinch.
Just as a reminder that the Falmouth Hall has jams on Friday evenings. The updated dates are on their Facebook page. And also to keep an eye on the Southwest Hants Fire Society Facebook page, because there will be some free of charge yoga classes coming up over the next couple of months.
Fantastic. I'm assuming you mean music jams rather than...
Yes, music jams rather than the jam you eat.
Both are good, though. Councillor Whedon.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just want to put out there a little advertisement for our breakfast in the Ellers House Community Hall on February 8th. It's usually we have it the last Saturday of the month, but we're going to be helping out the Winter Carnival. So February 8th at Ellers House Hall for breakfast.
Lovely. Always a big crowd. All right, seeing no more lights, we will move on. Approve the agenda, including additions or deletions. We do have a dashboard items in the package again, Council. There's a couple of changes that I'm going to make to the agenda. We're going to move, let me see here, 15A, the tender award RFP trail maintenance. We're going to move that up to it will be 6B now. And we're removing the 439 Clifton Avenue Windsor Development Agreement from public hearings tonight. There was a little mix up on the advertisement and it didn't get placed in the paper, so we have to reschedule that public hearing. So we will remove that item from this evening's meeting. Are there any other changes, removals, or additions? Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for clarity on the movement of the trail, it's going to become 6B, is that correct?
6B, yeah. We'll just put it after the meeting minutes there.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
And seeing no more lights, I'll look for a motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Moved
Second.
by Councillor Morton Paul, seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. We're going to do a vote by hands. All those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? Motion is passed unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest for this evening's meeting? Councillor or Deputy Mayor Francis?
Through you, Mayor, in camera 17F, it's a land matter and have a conflict with that.
Okay, I'll declare the same item for conflict on my end as well. 17F MGA 22-2A land matter. Any other items that anybody wishes to declare? All right, we'll move on again. Meetings for the December 10th council meeting 2024 were circulated in your packages. If there are any questions on those, we can take them. If not, I'll look for a motion to approve. Anybody else? Councillor Morton.
I'll move the motion to be approved.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Paul Morton, seconded by Deputy Mayor Francis. Any discussion? Okay, we'll call to a vote. All those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? Motion's passed unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, 6B, we have WHRM CD 24-11 RFP Trail Maintenance Work Tender Award Recommendation. Manager Bennett.
Good evening, Council. On behalf of the Community Development Department, I don't know, do you need my name?
Nope.
No. On behalf of the Community Development Department, we'd like to make the official recommendation to Council. We would like to recommend that Council approves the award of tender WHRM CD 24-11 RFP to Meehan's Garage and Trucking Equipment for the work listed in the RFP in the amount of $128,945, 0 cents plus applicable taxes and 5% contingency.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions at this point, Council, on the report to Manager Bennett? Sure, Councillor McLean. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Manager Bennett. Just got curious, well, what the timeline when this work would commence?
Understanding that we're into the winter now and we've got some frost in the ground, we'll probably struggle a little bit to get some of the work done immediately, but the contractor is prepared and ready to go as soon as this council meeting is adjourned to get started on the work. And then we'll proceed based on what they can get done right now.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions on the report, Council? Councillor Leary Pinch.
Through you, Chair. Would that complete what the projected outlook is for that trail, this amount?
No. This is just to get it to a standard that I believe you folks toured a couple weeks ago. There'll be more work to do yet.
Any further questions to come in to Manager Bennett? All right, if not, I'll ask you to step away, Manager Bennett. Your job is done for tonight. Council, there is a recommendation on there, which I'll read. The council approves the award of tender WHRM CD 24-11 RFP to Meehan's Garage and Trucking Limited Equipment for work listed in the RFP in the amount of $128,945 plus applicable taxes and 5% contingency. If somebody wishes to make that motion, I'll take it now. Let's say,
I'll make the motion. Yeah, I'll
So
move
moved?
it. Yep.
Moved by Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Paul Morton. Discussion, questions, debate? Not seeing any lights. Councillor Smith, nothing? Nope. All right, so I'll call the motion, or I'll call the vote on the council approves the award of tender WHRMCD 24-11 RFP to Meehan's Garage and Trucking Limited Equipment for work listed in the RFP in the amount of 128,945 plus applicable taxes and 5% contingency. If we can put that vote up on the screen, Clerk Snare. And motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, next up, we have our one public hearing for tonight, West Hampton Regional Municipality Sewer Bylaw. Can I have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Palmore, and all those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed, motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. So public hearings for bylaws are required by Section 168 of the Municipal Government Act and Section 15.5 of the Meeting Committee Procedural Policy. Public hearings are hosted by council, provides members of the public to ask planning staff or staff in general or the applicant questions on the application. Once the public hearing is complete, council meeting will resume, and council will then ask questions or debate the topic. So with that, West Hampton Regional Municipality Sewer Bylaw, Director Richard.
Thank you, Mayor. Deanna, do you have the PowerPoint by any chance? If not, I can just speak to it. Okay, no, that's fine. So it's only a few slides. So here we are at public hearing for bylaw RS 001, which is essentially a new sewer bylaw. The former town of Windsor and the municipality of the District of West Hants both had sewer bylaws previously. They're still currently in effect. So following consolidation, the former town of Windsor and the former municipality of the District of West Hants bylaws do not uniformly meet the needs of the new regional municipality. There's some conflicting information for both of them. So we did want to consolidate the bylaws. So the proposed bylaw is respecting the regulation of connections and discharges to the public sewer systems, bylaw RS 001. And it was written to replace and update both the former bylaws to encompass the municipality as a whole and to match our sewer rates and their current procedures. So this bylaw will help, ensure there is a process in place to enforce sewer discharges into our system, assisting the sanitary and storm sewers to function properly. And this will do so by limiting and preventing residents from and businesses from pouring harmful materials down to the sewer. Materials like chemicals, fats, oils, grease, debris, wipes, etc., down the drains, into the toilets, and into the storm sewers. So this bylaw will act as a regulatory tool to help prevent backups from clogging pipes, reduce maintenance costs, allow us to do enforcement of these standards, and prevent issues from our wastewater treatment plants, and essentially, be good stewards of the environment. So we did just put a little picture in there. This is a local lift station. Shows you what does happen when fats, oil, and greases and wipes enter our system. Kind of coagulates, it cools off, and then it creates issues. So we just kind of included that for a visual. So next slide. So, you may ask, what are the changes? Not a whole lot of changes. Some were just around, consolidating the bylaws to make them the same. Updating our rules and procedures to align with current regulatory requirements and best management procedures. Terminology has been made more concise. There was some vague options or definitions in there, so we did add some more wording for clarity. All codes have been updated to include our municipal services specification manual. And our connection fees now align with our process for work within right-of-way permits or breaking ground permits with the installation cost and detailing. There is a section on, dental waste. We don't want that dental waste entering our systems. We also have a section around not using carburetors. Carburetors are not supposed to be used in residential because they do put material that shouldn't be entering our system. The biggest change, council directed change, was the responsibility around the sewer laterals, where the responsibility ended and where it started for your sewer lateral leaving your private residence. It used to be homeowners were responsible for their sewer right to the main and the street. Now it's just to the property line. So that's, some people were, had to go across the street or across the sidewalk. So now it's just to the property line. I think that was in alignment with council's wishes. So that has been included. And we also added a section just around the billing too. And again, the kind of shows a little picture there of what the new, where the responsibility for West Hants ends and where the property owner begins. So with the understanding of the new elected council, the purpose of this first reading is to ensure the bylaw changes still align with the vision of the West Hants Regional Municipality Council members. And certainly Public Works are happy to proceed with the public hearing and second reading. The motion is there. I'm not sure. I'm not used to this process. I'm not sure when you make the motion. Or I think there may be question at this stage and then debate at the second stage.
So first reading already took place, Clerk Snare, correct?
We had first reading,
In
and
September.
there was proposed amendments that went with that,
Mm.
but because we didn't hold a council meeting in September,
Mm.
and the election with October, the process was delayed, so public hearing wasn't advertised. So it's being brought forward again, just to make sure that the proposed changes at that last meeting were incorporated as to the wishes of council.
Okay. All right. So are there any questions to Director Richard at this point? Councilor Ivy.
So just for clarity on if I could, Mayor, through you to your dialogue with Clerk Snare. So are we at public hearing or are we at first reading? It sort of sounded like there was a period of uncertainty in there in between. I just want to be sure before we.
We are at public hearing.
That is correct.
Yeah.
We did hold first reading. This is at public hearing. Through you, your worship, my apologies for the confusion, Councilor Ivy. First reading did occur, changes were proposed, but we did not advertise for that public hearing or second reading because we didn't hold a council meeting and we didn't hold, we had elections which delayed the process. So first reading as per the process did occur. Now it's before council for public hearing and second reading. Then it will go through to the minister for review.
Thank you. And we did advertise for this public hearing though. You're saying we didn't advertise back in September, October.
It wasn't advertised, so it's been advertised for this evening.
Thank you. I just want to be clear because of that. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And I just want to be sure. So I have a couple of questions for Director Richard, if I could. I just want to get that out of the way first. So in the short title of the document that we have, Director Richard, it makes a reference there to repealing the sewer bylaw of the former town of Hantsport. Did that not get done before, or is that something that should be amended in the document, or?
I believe that would have been appealed when Hantsport dissolved into West Hants, but I'm not 100% sure of that, but that
It's
was my
short
thoughts. But
short title, page 8 is what it just says, that the previous sewer bylaws, including any sewer bylaws of the town of Windsor and the town of Hantsport and the municipality of West Hants, are repealed and replaced by this sewer bylaw. So I just, again, if they were repealed, great. And if they weren't, then having it in here is fine, but I just trying to get
and
clarity.
I think that's why we wanted to add it, just to make sure if it wasn't, it's null and void after this is passed.
Okay, thank you.
It's always noted that they were repealed and.
Okay, thank you. The second point that I want to pick up on here is the reference in here, and we didn't touch on it, but it's the prohibition of having sump pumps or gutters or heat pumps going into the sewer system. And I can make the reference, but the reason that I had the question on this is I was of the opinion that that was always in place, but in going through this, went back and looked at the Windsor town bylaws. And I don't know that we had that in there before. Can you correct me on that? Or the version I pulled down did make any reference to any of those sump pump gutters or heat pumps? Is that new for Windsor or?
Not so much new. It's in our municipal spec for sure. But we just wanted, and that was a part of the process was for clarity. There was some vague wording in there. If it was allowed, for it wasn't. So we made sure the clarity was specific in this new bylaw that sump pumps and, discharges like that are not allowed to be connected. They're supposed to be connected outside and managed on your property.
Thank you. So the question on that goes to existing, and I hope I'm still within the confines of what we can ask here as it relates to this. So we're looking to implement this. It'll be in place the next 2 or 3 weeks. We've talked previously about, potential, education on these matters, so people aren't having their sump pumps and their gutters and the like still going in. As part of this process, is there a time period during which we'll be doing education before we look to do enforcement, which has also been referenced in the past because of the impact this has on the sewer system during storm events and the like? Is that intended to be part of this process?
So actually, from a staff perspective, from my perspective, is this will be, education will be, years to take place, and certainly by a case basis. If we discover an issue, certainly education would be the first one, and then follow up. If we become aware of an issue, certainly education, and then perhaps a follow up within a few months if that's not done, and then we'd have the enforcement piece. So certainly we want to be, from my perspective, again. Kind of just education and promotion of our new bylaw before any enforcement takes place.
Thank you. I think it's not a question, just a statement, is that where many people within those areas have become dependent on the use of sump pumps and the like. And so A, there's the cost, B, the removal, the change, and the time that it takes for people to be able to do that. And one of the residents that I visited last year had multiple sump pumps in play, and they're not in a sewer zone area, but they've got water that comes down slopes directly into their property. So I just think that's important. So I wanted to highlight that. That's it for my questions on the bylaw and what's in there at present. Thank you.
I think the key that people need to be aware of, it's not having them directly tied into the sewer system, so they can still have their sump pumps that can't drain right into the sewer system itself. So Councillor Leary Pinch.
I just wanted to clarify because I know Mrs. Snayer had said that there was amendments made after the first reading. Is this the document with those amendments that were made from council? So that, okay. That's all I wanted to know, is that this document has the amendments.
This document has everything reflected in it. So I think the main thing was the cutoff of free responsibility from home to property line, rather than somebody having to cross a road to pay for that, whereas one house may not have the same cost as the house on the other side of the street, depending on where the main goes. So, all right. Any other questions? Oh, you're good. All right. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you. One last one, if I could, Your Worship. Thank you. Through you to Director Richard. So there's also a reference in here to the combining or the aggregation of the municipality of West Hants, Windsor, Hantsport, and also in overlaying East Hants with that. Can you tell me to the extent that we overlaid East Hants within this document, Director Richard?
Sure. We referred to several documents. We picked, of course, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, so we pulled from other municipalities what their bylaws looked like. East Hants was very current. They just had redone theirs within the last year or two, so they had some really good wording, definitions. That's where we upgraded our definitions. So it was certainly just an exercise in updating and looking what others were doing. So that was the exercise.
Thank you. And I think the last question that I have is, in doing that aggregation, did we use any AI applications in doing this at all?
No, none whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
Not seeing any more lights. I'm going to open up the floor to the public themselves if anybody has any questions on this application. We'll state your name for the record there, Gweed. Just turn the light on and please stay focused on the topic at hand. Just click your button there if you could. Just on the mic, the button on the mic there. Yeah.
There we go.
You
No,
got
I
it.
know the button, but
Yep.
good evening, Council. My name is Guido G. Forlani, through you, Chair. In plain English, is this going to support the Stanton Street problem in some way, or is something different? Talking about the sewage and the stormwater problem with Stanton Street, or is on another level, it doesn't matter to that?
Through your chair, no, it's not directly related or any correlation to Stanton Street. It's more of a holistic, region-wide, where all our service areas are. So just a sewer bylaw. And there really isn't a lot of changes between the three previous bylaws. It's just more updating some definitions. And the biggest one, like discussed, was the responsibility of the sewer lateral where the cutoff is. So.
Thank you. And on a personal note, I appreciate the fact that the carburetors are going to be eliminated because using the carburetors doesn't produce the organic green bean product that create compost. So I find that a very good proposal. What is the timeline to implement that so that people have time to get off the old carburetor stands and get into the composting before going? Probably it's the same question that Council Ivy has asked.
Yeah, specifically, I can't really give a timeline, but it's, we're going to do a lot of, education, social media, maybe some news releases on the radio that this is enacted. And we've also, and we're going to do a soft approach, like some of our higher users. We have a staff person that's going to, make a site visit, share the bylaws with them, review them, just to make them the awareness piece. Because a lot of people are just, aren't aware. So we need to do that. We need to do a lot of work on that end. So like I said, can't really give a specific time, but certainly, not months, maybe, a year or two before we're ready to enforce these things.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody further? We'll get you to click the button on there again, Amanda, and just state your name for the record.
Amanda Dunfield, Windsor. Just a quick question about the education portion. I know it's not specific to the bylaw, but when we're educating people on the bylaw, are we going to be working to educate them on how to actually become compliant with the bylaw? So for example, for people who say Victoria Street, lot size is small, a lot of pavement. So if they're putting their sumps exterior to their homes, there's a risk that they're going to be discharging onto neighboring property. So is that something that could be rolled into education on how not to negatively impact neighbors?
Yeah, certainly. And every, there's going to be a case by case scenario written into the bylaw is, there may be exceptions. If there's nowhere else to put it, certainly we need to have that a bit of leeway, and it's written into the bylaw that there is that discretion. So, in certain cases, if they can't meet it, there will be some discretions made also.
Thank you.
Anybody further? All right, with that, we'll conclude this public hearing. We will resume the regular council meeting at this point. Council, we do have a motion on the screen. I'll just give it a quick read there that council approves the respecting the regulations of connections and discharges public sewer systems bylaw RS 001 in a manner substantially the same as attachment A is presented at the September 10th, 2024 committee of the whole meeting, which includes the repeal of the sewers and sewage discharges bylaw number 11 for the former town of Windsor and the sewage and storm sewer connection discharge and charges bylaw S-003 for the former municipality of District of West Hants. That is the motion. If somebody wishes to make that, we can.
I'll make that motion.
Made by Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Bonnie Smith. Questions, debate? Council. Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not looking to be a real stickler for detail, but the way this reads, is the bylaw going to be called respecting the regulations of connections and discharges to the public sewer system bylaw RS 001? Or will it be something shorter and more specific to what it is as it relates to?
That's the name of it.
Is there, I fail to understand why that would be the name of the bylaw, starting with the respecting and going right through. I probably should have asked it when we were going through it with the director. At the risk of changing it to a name that it shouldn't be, it seems to me that I'm going to suggest an amendment that it be referred to as sewer and stormwater connection, disconnection, and charges bylaw S003. I so amend. Move to amend it.
Motion to amend made by Councillor Ivy. Is there a second to the amendment?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor John Smith. Discussion on the amendment. Councillor Leary Pinch.
May I ask why?
Well, the way sorry, through you, Chair, to the way it's written that the name of the bylaw will be respecting the regulations of connections and discharges to public sewer system bylaw. And while it may cover all of that, it just seems to me that we've worked a general statement that doesn't connect with the bylaw. All the other bylaws are, 3, 4, 5 word statements. And what we have here is one that's giving us a full statement. I'm not going to lose any sleep if it doesn't happen. I'm just trying to tidy it up at this point is all. That's the reason for my suggestion. But again, I should have asked it when we had the director here and it went past me. Thank you.
Councillor John Smith. No? Anybody further on a name change? So the motion is to change a name, nothing in the actual bylaw or the substance of a bylaw. Any further questions on the amendment, Council? If there's nothing, I'll call the motion on changing the name. I forget what you called it there, Councillor Ivy. The amendment is to change the name to Sewer Storm Discharge Bylaw S003, I believe, is what you said.
Would it help if I restated it?
Yeah.
I took it from the sewerage and storm, so I just made it sewer and storm connection, discharge, and charges bylaw. Sewer and storm water, sorry.
S003. So
Thank
that's the amendment. If there's no other lights, we'll put it to a vote. If you can put that vote up on the screen, Councillor Snare, Clerk Snare. Thank you very much. And the motion to amend is passed. All right, thank you very much. So we are back at the original motion as amended with the name change. Are there further questions or debate on the original motion now changed with the name? If nothing, we'll call that question. We'll put that vote up on the screen. The motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, unfinished business, postponed motions. First one, 9A Wind Farm. So we do have a response received from the Department of Municipal Affairs regarding our planning strategy setback request that we put in after our public hearings. That was put in your packages, Council. So the letter is It's pretty much a two-pager. The province or the minister exercised their authority and made some amendments to what we had submitted after our public engagement, our public feedback. I thought the council had a robust public engagement. I thought we had covered all of our bases. We had a lot of discussion. We had a lot of public feedback. We made the changes based on what we felt was best for our community, and the province's statements of interest, their vision going forward didn't align with our vision for our community. So they've made some amendments to that, which puts us in a position on council's direction, CAO, I believe, on doing a study on cumulative effect. So I think that's what our discussion is following up on that letter.
Yes. So again, we have, as you have noted, a direction of council, I would say, based on a previous criteria for which council had the ability to evaluate applications on. I think council's intent was to try to get a larger picture and a sense of size and scale. And again, the amendments put forward by the province has essentially removed that as an evaluation criteria. So we are checking back with council on the intent and or wishes of them proceeding with that study. The director's not here tonight. Senior planner Dunphy is here to assist if you can in any way with any technical questions around this. But I guess the question is, does council wish to proceed with this study? We do have feedback from one vendor. It was put out, and a series of questions, of course, from different firms. So we do have a quote from the vendor. It's in the $60,000 range for which they would proceed if endorsed by council. And then I think the timeline was late August was their anticipation to complete this work. So we're checking back to see if you want to continue to proceed with this direction now that you have this news from the province.
So just before we do get into that, just for clarity and just maybe some confusion within the community CAO, these amendments that the minister has made to our documents, they are in effect as of the notice that came through. So there is no debate on these changes. Those are done. That is our document right now.
That is the language imposed by the province. It
Yep.
doesn't happen every day. Quite often we send it through, and as long as it matches their statements of interest, is not too far offside, I guess we'll say, from their intent, then typically those amendments will proceed. In this case, they made amendments and they are now imposed upon the municipality in the manner for which they are. So it's really not a decision for council around those amendments. Of course, with any of your planning documents, if you want to try to impose any other amendments at any given time, so be it. But I think you have the direction from the province on these ones specifically. So yes, there's no decision before council. This has been imposed by the province onto the municipality.
So going forward on the direction council on doing the study, we're looking for council direction if it wishes to proceed, knowing or having this new information. Councillor Smith, John.
Good. Thank you. It doesn't seem reasonable to do a $60,000 study for something that we probably can't use. That's my opinion.
It's not a criteria. So, Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mayor. I would generally agree, given that the visual impact study that was being considered has been eliminated as a criteria that could be considered for what we have taking place. I do, not just as it relates to that, I do have a question through you to CO Phillips and or it may be Planner Dunphy, I'm not sure. But the items that they specified with the changes they made without restating them, you've gone through the letter and the letters have been published. I guess I'm curious if any ability exists as it relates to the maximum height of windmills that can be laid out within our municipal planning strategy, as it may relate to the maximum number of windmills or wind turbines that we consider putting within our region, setting that as a criteria that we're willing to grow to a certain point. And I make reference here, I pulled up the correspondence from former councillor Ed Sherman, who did an aggregate table in concert and also in conjunction with the table that we'd had from Director Poirier at the time. And, presently we're on stream now, I think at about, aside from there's the one wind farm in waiting with 11 or 15 turbines that are being proposed. That number seems to have changed a bit, but that puts us presently at 49 that we've approved. And there's another 11 to 15, which would put us at 64. Ignoring South Canoe, with their 30, which is sitting on the border. So the question is whether we have the ability to incorporate detail of either maximum height or maximum numbers. And then the last one, I think the approach that I was trying to take in our previous conversations on this was trying to get us somewhere in the middle, but it kind of leaves us then with the potential for moratorium. And I guess I'd like to know, are those options that may exist in front of this council, at least so they can be considered, versus us solely looking at the visual impact assessment as a sole remedy that we had. Can you parse the question of that, CAO Phillips and or Planner Dunphy? It's height,
Sure.
number, and
I think we're looking at number and an all-out moratorium is.
Right. And if Planner Dunphy, if you're comfortable stepping forward here, I'll make an attempt at this. And this is really my recollection, as I think you have the same benefit. And again, look for Alex to correct us. And if we don't have the answer, I think we should do that research if that's council's wishes. It's been my understanding that each application is onto its own, and that they have not looked at the totality of them. I know that was my first question, even at the staff level. Is there a threshold for which, there are too many or whatever it might be? And I think the answers has been consistent along the way, that they look at each application onto itself and how that relates to the requirements. But not my area of expertise, and I'm looking for that confirmation, or correct me if I'm wrong, Planner. And then if, again, we need to do a little research, we can do that.
Sure.
The number first, maybe. Yeah.
Through you, Chair. No marks on the right direction there. So currently our policies are to review each application on a case-by-case basis. So we currently don't have the criteria to take into account all other applications that have been approved at this point in time. That's not part of the criteria that we can evaluate on. In terms of looking for an amendment specifically based on the total number of wind farms in the region, I don't have a lot of experience with changes of that nature where it is a more regional look at these things. I can give you my interpretation of a potential response from the province based on the response we got here. It likely would not be in favor of that, just based on my interpretation of their letter and response. But again, there is an opportunity for council to direct staff to investigate that.
Okay, and then the second question, if you could, Worship, just a reminder on that one. That's the.
So just for clarity on this, that my question is about our municipal planning strategy, what we might incorporate into that, either by height or number, which I think both you and Planner Dunphy have answered based on the MPS view of it, not on individual wind farms. I just want to be sure that that's how that question is being interpreted. And then the last one was potential for moratorium. That West Hants could, should it so choose, decide that we were full from a wind farm point of view. And again, I'm just putting these out for questions that we know what we can consider versus what we can't. And it may be that we have you come back with that information.
That's not a question I can answer. The moratorium question.
It can be a fact-finding mission that council directs staff to go do. When you parse the letter from the minister or his assistants, I guess, the provincial director of planning, They do state the Environmental Goals and Climate Change Reduction Act. So they have stated goals in that legislated act that they're going to stick to. Again, council can try things if it wishes. That's the will of the community. But I think this letter was pretty strongly worded on provincial interest going forward. But if it's direction of council, we can send staff off to collect that and report back. I'll go to Councilor Leary Pinch at this point.
So I'll just comment on that first and then go back to my previous comment. So I would be in favor of directing staff to gather some information on whether there's past precedent in other regions across the country who have either placed moratoriums, height restrictions, number restrictions, and for that information to be brought back to council. And the first point that I was going to make in regards to a cumulative effect study, though I'm aware that the cost is high, speaking from the residents in my district, I think that it was something that was very important to them that we pursued. And that unfortunately, based on this response from the province, they have been left to feel like their voices are going unheard. So I felt the need to vocalize that. And the amendments, though I understand that they're immediately in place as per the province, when we make amendments to the NPS, that does not apply to development agreements that are already underway previous to those amendments. So if we're following process, theoretically, from my understanding, then these amendments would not apply to development agreements that were already underway. I don't know, CAO, through you, Chair, if you can correct me if I'm wrong.
In principle, I would say you're correct. That's my feelings. Look for Alex to confirm there. Applicants also have the opportunity to revisit such things. We do have some comments from our solicitor on that as well. That scenario that I think we'd be happy to share. Might be something you consider in camera about that. But just broadly speaking, with this amendment or any other amendment, the applicant has the choice to kind of forge forward if they so choose, or they can withdraw and resubmit. And that's not specific to this application in any way. That's with any application. Should they feel that one or the other, is the approach they'd like to take. And staff would evaluate either one based on the compliance, whichever direction they decided to go. But yes, in principle, I would concur. And Alex, if you disagree, please feel free to do so.
No, through you, Chair, I'll just confirm Mark's understanding of the point is correct. So any application made, once that application is deemed complete, so all requirements for the application have been considered met, it is examined based on the policy criteria in place that day. So there can be changes made after an application is deemed complete, but they won't apply to the application as we consider the documents that were in place the day that we got a complete application.
Okay. Any further questions at this point? Councillor Bob Morton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Disappointment, I guess, wouldn't really describe what it was when I seen this letter, and I'm sure the residents felt the same thing. But with the visual effects study, understanding completely, it's 60. I think you said $60,000. A lot of money, really is. But it was the one thing that residents really wanted, so they know what to look at. And I know it's a lot of money, but I think it would tell us what we need to know with all of those ones that we've approved, what the effect is going to be. Now that we really don't have a say in what we put here, but it will tell us the effect of all of them once they're up. And I think that's important for us as a council to know for future developments when they come in or applications. Again, we can't base it upon that, but I certainly think it would help us with the future application. So I'd like to see that go forward. It would tell us a little more information. We agreed to do it before, obviously before this disappointing letter came in, but I would still be in favor of moving forward with doing that for sure.
Yeah. So going forward, there would be no requirement. So there'd be no requirement to do one, period. But on the current one there, that is what we are discussing at this point. If before council does make a decision, if it wants to gain the legal opinion in an in-camera setting at the end of the meeting, we can do that. So you have all the information before you are making before you are making a decision. If council wishes to do that, we'll proceed that way. I'll just look for some nods of heads, or I got a light on first, so I'll go to Councillor Ivy first before. Yep. Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I think I would like to pursue directing staff to review the potential options and put a motion forward in that regards. And it's not, to be very clear here, I mean, we've tried to get to that middle ground for a long period of time here between, having wind farms, green energy, and not having too many. And I remember when this dialogue began over a year ago, it was, what's the right number? Where do we feel that we're comfortable at having? And that's what took us down the path of having that greater setback distance as a means of being sensitive to the needs of the residents within the area. In that regards, I'll take an attempt here, putting a motion forward regarding having staff try to bring back additional information. And it would be the council direct the CAO to review potential options for amendments to the MPS, such as windmill height, volume, and other means which may serve to limit the total volume of wind turbines within the West Hants region over time. I so move.
Okay, moved by Councillor Ivy. Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing nothing. I would restate it, but I didn't write it down that quick. So if you just want to restate it there one more time, Councillor Ivy, for the record there, I think you had it written down. So
yeah, I've got some raw notes. The council direct the CAO to review potential options for amendments to the municipal planning strategy, such as height, volume, total volume of wind turbines, and other means that may serve to limit the total volume of wind turbines within the West Hants region over time.
okay, thank you very much. If we can put that vote up on the screen, Clerk Snare. The motion is passed. Thank you very much. So on the direction of the study, we'll get that towards the end of the meeting after our in-camera there. All right. All right, so we will move on to Mayor's report. I have a verbal report here tonight, Council. I'm just going to pull it up here. All right, so the year has started off in a frenzy. There's a lot going on. I've been reaching out to other municipal units and leaders of those units, discussing a variety of topics, windmills being one of them, and the other areas that they're being considered. And there's a lot of discussion going on behind the scenes with our municipal counterparts and what's best for their communities and how they feel going forward. And we do align with the visions of other municipal units as well. So right now they're not aligning with the provincial government, but we're not off base on how we feel and what we're trying to do for our residents. And I think there's a lot of validity within the concerns of our community and our residents within our community. So I just wanted to mention that to council that you are on the right track here. So we'll keep on going and keep on discussing and keep on fighting. The municipal tours, which I think everybody was on, were very well done. Thank you to CAO staff, Deanna, for organizing them. Community development. It's interesting when you go to these these assets and these facilities and the trails and the water utilities and the fire stations, and gives you a different perspective when you talk to the people who are working on the front lines. Just for the public and anybody watching at home, these staff are willing to do these tours for the public as well. So if anybody is interested at any point, you want to see a water utility, you want to see how the sewer system works, or you're interested in one of the fire departments, or to get a tour of the trail, staff are more than willing to do that. So just throwing it out there. Chaired one of the PIMs for 2 applications, one in Windsor, one in Brooklyn. Wasn't attended as well as I thought it would be. A lot of questions and comments came in after the fact. So I think the delay after Christmas, people are a little bit on slow motion still, but I think that'll pick up. I think there's one next week or coming up again. Henshore AGM, I attended that with CAO and Councillor Yanish. We had representatives from Department of Health, I believe, who were there. It was quite interesting. It was quite encouraging with all the work that the province is doing on the healthcare side of things. The walk-in clinic downtown, I don't think that's the right name for it, but the access clinic, I think, is what they call it. A lot of work is going on. And a lot of regional work. So it's promising. It's looking really good. And the Shore Clinic, the Shore Health Center is doing really well. So, and a thank you from them to council for the support that council has given them. The Avonview girls hockey team has been awarded the Nova Scotia Provincials. So that'll be another provincial tournament that we host this coming March. So we're deep in on organizing that, and it's expected to be a very big event. So a lot of business will come into the community. It's being hosted by both the GFL rink and the West Hand Sports Complex. So it's spreading it around between the both, and it'll be a great show. Me and CAO had the opportunity to meet with Dalhousie University this morning, looking to collaborate and do some workshops. So they're interested in getting more involved in the communities around them and how they can help. So we'll see where that goes. It seems pretty exciting. A lot of discussions in the community on wind setbacks, the letter that we had just discussed, cell towers, and developments. So again, council. As we start getting into more and more of these applications and these items, you're going to find yourself more involved and more reading and more research and more debates and discussions. So it's healthy though. So it's really good. And I just want to keep it short tonight because we have a long agenda. I just want to acknowledge the Long Pond Heritage Classic back after I think 4 or 5 years delay after COVID. So Chris Deloy, Hockey Heritage Society did a wonderful job to all of our honored guests who came. I couldn't attend for some other reasons, but I heard it was really great. Deputy Mayor, you did a great job, I heard, and congratulations to all. Hilltop Hops, I just want to mention them. 6 years in business, they're great. If you haven't stopped by the Hilltop Hops, go stop by. They're great. You'll probably bust a rib laughing at some point. So. And it was a great announcement with Dial-A-Ride. They got some funding for another vehicle, so it's a lot of strength in that organization as well. So I'm going to keep it really short tonight on that, council. If there's any questions, I can take them. If not, we will move on. All right, let's move on. Financial updates. So we have general operating as of November 30th, water utility operating as of November 30th, and water consumption as of November 30th. I'll give you the mic, Director, if there's anything you want to touch on. They were circulated in the agenda package, so I think council had a lot of time to look through them, but we'll give it to you to highlight the top things.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. So as the mayor has mentioned, these were circulated in your package. I just will mention that in our general operating fund for our 8th month ending November 30th, our projected surplus is $342,699, which has decreased by $11,611 since our last report dated October 30th, 2024. And the only item that has really impacted the change that you see there is our host community fees that we have as a revenue source, which has been projecting higher now. If there's any questions.
All right, questions to council? Councillor Scott McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Director Rashawn. So the host fees, that's for the landfill? Okay, thanks.
BCFN, landfill, a couple of other. Any other questions on financial updates, water utilities, or consumption? Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, we're just on the operating right now. Is that not correct?
We'll do the operating first. Yep. All right.
I just want to be sure of that.
Yep.
Normally, I'm totally misstepping on that. So just one question through you, Mayor, to Director Sean. On the property and the deed transfer tax, it's an aggregation there. But the deed transfer, I think, is the largest portion of what we see taking place there, Director Sean. Are we seeing any change in the trend that we'd expect with that? I think we forecasted down a bit last year, but it really drives that number.
Yep, certainly. So right now we are projecting slightly lower than what we had budgeted. We had budgeted 1.7 million. I'm projecting right now, based on what we've received, that will end around 1.625.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, let's go on to water utility.
Okay, thank you. So again, keeping it short because this was circulated, the utility is projecting a surplus of 56,899, and I'm happy to answer any questions. There hasn't been really a big change in any of the categories since our last monthly report in October.
Questions on utility? Councillor Ivy.
Thank you. The only question that I have here, and that you note in your footnotes there, Director Sean, sorry, through you, Mayor, to Director O'Shawn, with the cessation of the exchange of water and funds between the two utilities for the reduction on rate sales. Do we have new rates incorporated into that number that you're showing, though? Is that reflective of both the removal of the wholesale water as well as the new rates rolling in that we'd still come in $100,000 beneath what is currently based on the forecast?
Yes, so that would include the projection of the new rates in there, but it also includes the projection of 2 quarters not billing for the sale between the two utilities.
Great. Thank you.
No other lights. Water consumption. Sorry. Yep. Another question. Yep. Water consumption.
So thank you, Your Worship. Again, through you to council, this was circulated in your package. Again, not a lot of change since the last monthly update as we bill on a quarterly basis. So Q3 is only showing anything that has been adjusted or has been final bills. So that is the only change that you will see. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Director Sean. Just for clarity on this and from our previous discussion on this at the last meeting or the one before, that we're seeing the end of consumption numbers through finance for the water utilities. Is that correct? So those numbers will not change. When you say they won't change, it's not that we're waiting for the end of the third quarter. It's those numbers are generally the numbers.
Through you to Councillor Ivy, the bulk master meters, you are correct. So those are going to be where the billing has stopped for those meters. However, when we do bring back the January 2025 report, which is in 2 months' time in March, Council, we're hoping to have a report in collaboration with Public Works because it's going to be kind of switching hands over to Public Works with the bulk master meter comparison. So we're working on that right now.
Thank you. So that's where I was leading with my initial question is that the meeting in, I can't remember now, it was November, December, we'd had this conversation that we would see Public Works ultimately still being able to provide us with consumption numbers. And I take it that's what you're referencing, and that will be a couple of months before we get to see that, before we'd see the end of the third quarter results.
Yes, because we actually just read the residential meters and billed them out for the third quarter in January of 2024. So you'll see the final numbers in January 2024's consumption report.
For residential or for
The residential and the bulk master meter.
So yeah, so it's the bulk master meters that I'm wanting to track as much as anything because the others come through in the revenues. So it is coordinated now with Public Works. That was the takeaway from the last time we talked about this, is that I think it was CAO Phillips was saying that you would get back to us, as in staff would get back to us, not necessarily you, but staff would get back to us with numbers on consumption for the bulk master meters. Are we talking the same language? I guess that's what I want to know.
Yes, I believe so. We're working with Public Works to work on a new report that's going to show the bulk master meters, but try to, because one of the challenges is we read the residential meters, so we have to make sure we're reading the bulk master meters at the same time. Otherwise, we're going to be creating variances that are not necessarily variances. So again, coordinating with them because they're reading their equipment, but we're not seeing it on the billing side. So just making sure that all that's kind of coordinated and then populated into a report.
So thank you for that. And the only thing I'm struggling with is the timeline. So we're at the end of January now. The meter reads have all been done for the end of the third quarter, end of December, if I could round that. So we've seen those that would have been done almost, I'll say 3 weeks ago, that those would have been completed. They were done at the end of the month. Is there any reason that we wouldn't be able to see those consumption numbers in February, at February's meeting?
So I'm just following the monthly report. So the next monthly report would be for December of 2024. That would show all the adjustments or final bills that occurred in December. And then the next monthly report would be January's report. So I'm just following the monthly report that's been requested. So we aren't out of January yet, even though we've billed January. We still have final bills that are incurring, adjustments that are occurring up until January 31st. And then we are going to be working with Public Works to prepare the report for March when that comes around.
I don't want to get into it just seems to me that I'm missing something, that we've already gathered the data for December though, because we billed, all those water bills are out in the mail, right? For the third quarter, October, November, December, those have gone. I struggle to understand why it would take us through till March for something we've already gathered the data on a month ago. Unless I'm missing something here. But.
So December is coming next month, and the bills don't get posted until January. So they're not going to be in the GL. They're not going to be on the accounts until January. So though we're going based on what's in the actual accounts and has been billed as of December.
Thank you. I think your last statement just now has told me that next month is when we'll see up to the end of December. Thank you.
Any other questions on consumption? All right, we'll move on. Committees of council excerpts from the 14th of January 2025. First, 2025 Rand Street Hansport Detail Design Street Construction. Deputy Mayor.
Council approved the award of tender WHRMPW 24-11 Engineering Design Services for Rand Street Hansport to Design Point Engineering and Surveying Limited, Design Point, for the tendered price of $58,004 plus value added service of a legal survey at $8,174 for a total of $66,178 before applicable taxes.
Moved by Deputy Mayor.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Paul Morton. Further discussion, questions? Seeing nothing, I'll call the question. If we can put the vote up on the screen, Clerk Snare. Councillor Ivey. Motion's passed. Thank you very much. Accessibility Advisory Committee Resident Member Appointments. Deputy Mayor.
Council appoints the following resident members to the Accessibility Committee beginning January 14th, 2025 and ending October 31st, 2026. Michael Bourgeois, Amy DeLavie, and Denise Long.
Moved by Deputy Mayor. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Larry Pinch. Questions, discussion? All right, I'll call the question. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor.
Council appoints the following resident members to the Accessibility Committee beginning January 14th, 2025 and ending October 31st, 2027. Jordan Stevens and Rosanna Boyd.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Bonnie Smith. Questions, debate, council? Nothing. I'll call the question on that motion. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Michelle Bourgeois, Amy DeLevy, Denise Long, Jordan Stevens, and Rosanna Boyd. All right, Deputy Mayor, Diverse and Inclusive Communities Committee Citizen Member Appointments.
Council appoints the following individuals as voting citizen members to become representatives and support to the Diverse and Inclusive Communities Committee: Ann Bishop, Lisa Bland, Alma Karnick, Jamie Patterson, Dominique Padla, and Charlotte Paul.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Questions, debate? Seeing nothing, we will call the question. Motion is passed. So congratulations, Ann, Lisa, Alma, Jamie, Dominic, and Charlotte. We'll move on to epoxy floor coating water treatment plant floors. Deputy Mayor.
Council approved the award of request for proposal WHRMPW 24-12 surface preparation epoxy floor coating water treatment facilities to the low compliant bidder Stonhart, the tendered price of $74,916 plus a 20% construction project contingency of $14,983.20 plus applicable taxes.
Moved by Deputy Mayor. Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor Palmorin. Discussion, questions? We'll call the question. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. Fort Edward Viewplane, Deputy Mayor.
Council acknowledged the work of the report from Jane Davis submitted to PAC-HAC on December 12th, 2024, and direct staff to create new MPS policy through the plan review project, taking into consideration information provided by Jane Davis and discussions from the December 12th, 24 PAC-HAC meeting that speaks to the protection of the historic viewplanes surrounding the Fort Edward National Historic Site, preserving its culture, historical, and scenic integrity.
Moved by Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Lee Pinch. For the discussion, questions? I'll call the question. Motion is passed. One nay. Myself. Motion is passed. Meeting and committee procedural policy RCOGE-003.00 amendments. Councillor Deputy Mayor.
Council direct the CAO to gauge staff to make the necessary changes to the meeting and committee procedural policy RCOGE-003.00 following the discussion of council at the January 14th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Moved by Deputy Mayor. Is there a
Second.
seconder? Seconded by Councillor Paul Morton. Councillor Remy.
I just had one question, and it might be just somebody can just let me know. I noticed on the council agenda that's in like 7.1, I think it is, right in the, it says that it's committee recommendation reports in there, but is that only from committee of the whole, or is that for like any of the committees that we sit on?
Can you clarify
Meaning
the
like
question?
if
Sorry.
I was sitting on the Valley Run, for example, and there was a recommendation made, would I bring that forward then?
You can bring it forward to our next meeting. Yeah.
But I'm just curious, but there's nowhere on there for like information reports. So to keep council apprised of.
Well, usually
anything
information
that's
reports
happening.
come through your council reports, eh?
Oh, okay,
At,
cool.
at council. So that's why we give each councillor an opportunity for council reports to give their information. I've attended Valley Run, I attended VCFN, Valley or Region 6. This is what we discussed, et cetera, et cetera. So actually it's in your committee and procedural policy. Councillors are required to submit a report every month. So that's why we give the opportunity, and that's where you should address it there. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to give you the floor, Deputy Mayor, or sorry. I'll go to Councillor Ivey, and I'll give you the chair as well, because I'm going to make an amendment here as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. I just wanted to get clarity on the question from Councillor Rami as it relates to this. If she had an actual separate report per se recommendation from VCFN to come to council, it would, I believe, that would not get embedded within her councillor report, but would come out as a separate report.
Yeah.
And I don't want to.
Yeah. If there was a recommendation from that to give council direction or ask council to give direction, then that would be a report that you would do up separately. I may have misunderstood what you were saying. So a report on the meeting is one thing, but if there's a recommendation coming out of it, you'd want to do a request for a decision report to council.
And if I could just add clarity, sorry, I'm not wanting to interject, but to add clarity on that there's, so for example, planning, which I think we're about to discuss, those reports, and it's noted within their terms of reference, they recommend directly through to council, typically. And so the other ones, I guess it varies. I mean, some of them go to committee of the whole and then through it, but that's within that terms of reference that we could get clarity on where they go would be a good thing.
But I guess that's where I was looking, because it's only mentioned in the council agenda and not in the committee of the whole. So that's why I was just kind of curious. So if we, like, for example, I'll just use the Valley Run because I have a meeting coming up. So if there was like an information report, I know in the past, anytime that you attended a meeting, you would bring an information report forward so that council was aware of whatever you were discussing, right? And it wasn't like buried inside of your council activity, or sorry, let me rephrase that. Not that it's buried. It wasn't strictly just mentioned in that, but like something totally separate.
Separate on its own.
And then if there was a recommendation coming forward, I was just curious, do we bring it directly to council? I guess that is exactly what I was looking for clarity on. Like if it's during this period of time, or if that should be mentioned. I just figured where the procedural policy is up there now, like just to get clarity on it to understand.
Yeah, it's a good question, Clerk Snare. Maybe something to look at and tidy up the language next time, I guess. I guess I know we do have a policy there, but if it's of an urgent matter, council's not going to say no to bring it to your next meeting. If it's something that is not of an urgent matter, you take it to committee as a whole. It gives everybody a lot of time to discuss, debate, comprehend, or reinterpret for the next 2 weeks before it actually ratifies any decisions. It just, each committee is a little different, right? So, I think the Valley Run, for example, it's a partnership of all municipal units, so it just wouldn't be coming to one. You know what I mean? So good to get some clarity on it going forward. Clerk Snare.
Through you, Your Worship. So historically, advisory committees that staff are sitting on, those are excerpts that do go to council. And the VCFN, I do not believe it has council representation. So that historically, if you go by the former processes, would come to committee of the whole, but we certainly can amend it however council wishes to proceed with that. If you'd like all those to go to committee of the whole first versus council, or vice versa.
I'm going to look to you if it's something that's really important.
No, it like I say, it was just like with process, because I know that a lot of us sit on committees and there's not very often anything that comes with any amount of detail to keep council aware of what's going on in these other committees. So that's why I was kind of curious whether it be like an information report to just be like, this is what we discussed, or those types of things. I just didn't know where that fits into the agenda and if this was the appropriate time to bring it up, seeing as we're literally chatting about it before this gets approved. Or maybe it's something that's
no, information reports, we'll always put them on council just as an information, something that we're not going to be really discussing of, here it is, this is what we're talking about, this is what's going on in the Valley Red, just to make you guys aware of it. I used to do them when I was on the watersheds. I'd always submit a watershed report. We discussed about a trail or the road network that may be coming in next year's budget. We need a little big chunk of money, but we're doing it in pieces. Or, you might see something on a line item for a little bridge, or, just a heads up type of thing. So absolutely. Yep. Actually, it's better, council, to get those info reports. So we do know that those committees are meeting, and yeah. Councillor Louis Pinch.
I was just going to say to Councillor Remy that some of the committees, like the ones we've just approved tonight, haven't had a meeting yet. So perhaps also we'll see more of that coming forwards as those committees commence with the new council. And I'm sure she'll love this, but Clerk Snare is really helpful. If you have any questions and you don't know where you should put something or who you should, her phone's always on. And I have maybe used that a couple of times. So.
It's advertised now, Clerk Snare. All right, I'm going to give you the chair,
Go ahead, Mayor.
Deputy Mayor. Yeah, just on that, Council. Again, I know we discussed it at committee of the whole. We made some changes to the language on a couple of different line items there. Just for full transparency, I sent an email around the weekend saying I'm going to bring this amendment tonight, so I'm not throwing anybody off because it wasn't discussed at committee of the whole. But with the discussions, tonight with windmills, with development agreements, with everything and negotiating, council wanting to take more of a proactive approach on that. I know it used to work on my first term where all of council was on planning advisory, and it seemed to have worked with councillors. They were very aware of the applications. They had a lot of time to digest it and suggest and make changes if needed. And by the time it got to first reading, public hearing, council was very set on what this looked like. So it made for a good process and less confusing for the public, I guess, is how I would interpret it myself. So I'm going to put an amendment to the recommendation if I can, Chair. And I'll just put a motion to amend the motion to read as follows. Council direct the CAO to engage staff to make the necessary changes to the meeting committee procedural policy RCOGE-003.00 following the discussion of council at the January 14, 2025 committee of the whole meeting, as well as amend Appendix K, Planning Advisory Heritage Advisory Committee, Section 3.1, Committee Composition, to read, the committee will consist of 14 members as follows: 2 resident members elected or appointed at large from West Hants Regional Municipality who are not municipal employees, and all 12 members of council. That's the amendment.
Motion made by Mayor Zabian. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Paul Morton. Is there any questions, discussion on the motion as amended? The amendment. Councillor Ivey.
So I got the second part, and I can interpret it generally from the email that we had received identifying that this is what we were looking to do, but I don't have the full words and we don't have it on the screen. I won't go to a point of order on 7 days notice for this. I won't deal with any of that. Let's just talk about whether we think it's right to fully load the Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee with all of council and only have 2 resident members. And we've been through this a couple of times. We went through it the last time was about 8 months ago. The value of the Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee is for making decisions on land and land use and how we optimize the land within those areas. I don't think reducing the resident members in that committee down to 2 is in the best interest of getting the input from the region overall as to what we want to have for land and land use impacts. I realize it can be challenging for us as councillors if we're sitting here and we're not on that committee, but as is the case actually with all the committees of council, any councillor can sit in on. You can't participate except with the permission of the chair and so on, but we can sit in on any committee that is a committee of council meeting. And we can do the same thing with planning, which was the same point made previously. Every one of us can sit in on or watch or participate in planning by being there and seeing what takes place. I think we're going in the wrong direction. We started off with that as a fairly large committee with different regional representations. We had a Hantsport Area Advisory Committee, a Windsor Area Advisory Committee, a West Hants, and then we had planning. And so staff were going to multiple meetings and dealing with presenting the same things multiple times. We're not at that anymore. We've gone to an aggregated committee where we have 3 council representatives and 6, I believe, resident representatives that sit there. We've got the last 2 or 3 chairs have been resident members chairing that committee, which I think is also a great thing. I don't think we're progressing in the right direction to remove the resident committees from that committee, resident members, sorry, from that committee. And I fundamentally think that that's vitally important. Any one of us can attend that planning meeting at any time. It would be helpful, and it may be something we put in there that we get updates when any of the committee of council meetings are taking place, police advisory board and all the others. Unless you're glued to social media, I'm not seeing them or hearing of them otherwise. And I think that's important that we know when those are taking place. But on this motion, this amendment, I fundamentally disagree with it. Thank you.
Councillor Larry Pinch.
I understand the background from Mayor Zabian, and I'm not opposed to council members, all council members sitting on Planning Advisory, Heritage Advisory Committee, but I am concerned about the 2 resident members. It is a platform where residents have the opportunity to express what they would like for the communities with which they reside and raise their families and live their lives. And I think that those inputs are important to us in how we are shaping our decisions and making our decisions, but also in providing residents an opportunity to feel heard and like there are our voices and not just counselors being taken into consideration when we make those decisions, even though I know that that may be a public view from having public members sit at this table, and ultimately it is council who is making the vote at the end of the day. But it's concerning for me, I guess, especially from my district's perspective, where perhaps residents are feeling at the moment, based upon policy and amendments and jurisdictions, that voice is dwindling. And if we are removing those residents also from Planning Advisory Committee, Heritage Advisory Committee, which is probably one of the more active committees, we'll say, of council, I just am concerned in removing those resident voices. So I would be okay if fall council, I know there's a limit, you can't have a room full of people, but if there was some way to make that a little bit more of an equitable ratio between residents and council members.
Thank you. If it's okay, I'm just going to chime in here. 8 months ago, that was a recommendation I made with all residents members and the 12 councillors, and realizing at the time it was ludicrous probably. However, I do think my first year as council for West Hants, we sat on that pack. I'm looking over at John. I do believe you were the resident member that sat next to me at the time. It was valuable as a councillor, my first term, to be part of that pack hack. It's great to say that we can attend if we want, but usually we don't. If we know we're part of it, we're going to be. I do watch when I can. There's sometimes I can't, but if I knew I was going to be part of it, I'd definitely be engaged with it. I think it's good for counselors to be part of that process from the get-go. You can learn valuable information from the get-go. Right now, and you know, this is no disrespect to anybody, but we have public information meetings that public can attend when there is a development agreement, and planning staff even struggle there to have somebody chair it. And I know we're all busy, but usually if it's in a district, my district, I want to chair it because I want to be there. I want to know what's going on. And we all have busy times as well. But I think if we're part of it from the beginning, there's valuable information there. I think we're missing out. And, you know, I'm not opposed to adding another citizen members if that's what it's going to take. But I do think we should consider, I know we'll have a voice at the council table and the committee of the whole, but that voice from the get-go to see the process through is valuable information. I did it for my first 4 years, and I can't stress how much easier it was than it is now to look at these development agreements or look at the changes that we're going through. When you're involved from the start, it does make it easier at the end. So I just wanted to add that. So is there any other questions or comments on the Mayor Zabian?
If I can share, yeah, the intention of the motion is not to remove citizen members and to not reduce the input of the public. We're getting a lot of that to begin with, and it is valuable. And I think I'm on record saying PAC is probably our most active committee of all of our committees. Just lately, council is becoming more involved in our DAs. It's been becoming more involved in these applications, and so when you look at the process, if all of council is involved at the planning stage or PAC stage, it's seeing this application at PIM, it's going to it at the recommendation stage for planning with all the staff reports, with all the public comments attached to those before it even gets to this table, and that's where council should say, you know, I'm gonna reference the Windsor Back Road development agreement that the council rejected, and it's through appeal right now. You know, if council was involved from the start at the planning stage, you know, like, geez, we don't want apartment buildings there. They don't fit, you know, let's go back to developer and let's recommend something at the planning stage that says, you know, let's do a series of townhomes or R2s there instead, and work through that before it gets to the decision-making table here. It might be a better process, and it might be more valuable to our residents, and you might avoid an appeal here or there. That's my take on it. And I know 14 members is large now. To add more, it becomes really large. You have, you know, we're 12 around this table now. You add 4 more, it's 16. It becomes a very large committee and becomes very hard to start to get through the work. But that's the amendment, Chair, and I'll put it to a vote of council, or put it to a test anyways.
Okay, Councillor Bonnie Smith.
I just had a really quick question. How many citizen members are there now on PACAC?
4?
6.
Oh, 6. Yeah. 6. Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, thank you. Just my final comment on it is for the volume of discussion and conversation that we have around this table, and even, you know, PAC is a very involved table, actually. Resident members are speaking there a lot. I do have concerns that we will be diminishing that voice. We just reconstituted these committees. We just had these people all reapply, apply, put their names in, have them back in, and now we're looking to change it up. And right now it looks like we'd be reducing or removing and have them applying again. We've gone through this with this committee. This will be the 5th. Pulling that number out, I could be off on 4th or 5th time that we've shifted this committee from being the group of committees down to a committee to shifting the number and adjusting it again. It's time to let that committee do the work that it's doing, is in my opinion. We're not missing anything, honestly, with all those meetings, all the recordings, they're all there. Every one of us can see all of that work if we want to see it. That's if we want to see it. Making it a committee that everybody sits on to squeeze out the fact that we all see it and we're all here doesn't line up with why we're sitting around this table, I don't think. That work is best meant to be with the committee as it is. It's a good size, it's active, and it's busy. I'll accept whatever, you know, path we land on here, but I just think what we're doing is we're uncommitteeing the public on this, and we're overcommitting council.
Councillor Paul Morton.
So I'm gonna agree with the mayor. I was on the first term, well, 2 terms with West Dance, and they had all of council was on it, and 2 planning or 2 citizen members worked great. If a citizen member wants to bring something to your attention, they'll definitely call you. I get calls every day, right? If there's something really important, they'll come and visit you. They're not going to lose their voice at all, because I represent the people that come to me. My opinion may be different than theirs, but I represent the majority that comes to me. I think that's a good idea.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment? Questions? Seeing none, so we will vote on the amendment first, and I don't have it to read. So Mayor, do you mind rereading it?
I can read it again. So it's the same as the amendment that was in the package, with the addition of amend Appendix K Planning Advisory, Heritage Advisory Committee, Section 3.1, Committee Composition to read, the committee will consist of 14 members as follows. 2 resident members appointed at large from West Hands Regional Municipality who are not municipal employees, and all 12 members of council.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Paul Morton. Everyone's clear. I'll call for the question, and Deanna, can we put the vote up there? So just to be clear, this is on the amendment. Two, three. Motion is passed. There is 4 nays. So now we will vote on the original motion as amended. Counselor, okay. Perfect. Motion passed. Turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is the municipal streetlight policy. Deputy Mayor.
Council approves street light policy RCO PW-002.00 as presented.
Moved by Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Discussions, questions? I'll call for the question. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. Windsor Community Center Structural Assessment. Deputy Mayor.
Council directs staff to proceed with request for proposals, RFP, for a structural assessment of the Hants County War Memorial Community Center.
Moved by Deputy Mayor.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Bonnie Smith. Discussion, questions? All right, I'll call for the question. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. All right, next up, Police Advisory Board excerpt from January 20th, 2025.
All right.
You got that, or?
This, I have
right.
traffic calming. Hold
That'd
on.
be it. That's it there.
That's it? Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
You want to do that one, Deputy Mayor?
Yep. Council directs the CAO to engage with the Provincial Department of Public Works and MLA Sheehy Richard to ascertain potential traffic calming measures up to and including exploring digital speed signage for the area.
So motion made by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Scott McLean. Further discussion, Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The area is not defined in the motion. I didn't get to watch the Police Advisory Board meeting. I'm not sure if it was, I guess it was last week, in that regard, and didn't get a chance to go back to re-review it. But I know that when we had this conversation in council last fall, that the conversation spread out and got to be more involved in looking at other areas where we've got speeding taking place in school zones and the like. And I'm just curious, was it that broad a conversation, or is this area here purely relating to the preempt in the excerpt?
In the summation there, it's for the West Hands Middle School, Brooklyn Elementary School area.
Right. So the reason for asking this is
I'll go back to the, I think Councillor Morton, you sit on that committee, eh?
So we want to look at all schools.
So all
That
school
one?
areas?
Yeah, all school areas.
So maybe an amendment to say digital speed signage for the West Hands Regional Municipality. Maybe better. CAO.
I shouldn't be commenting, Your Worship, but perhaps at the end signage for designated school areas, school zones, designated school zones, something.
Within West Hands Regional Municipality.
West Hands Region.
All right, so if somebody wants to make that amendment,
well, I just
Councillor Ivy.
before we get to the amendment, if I could, the reason for raising this is that we had staff to be engaged within that conversation at Police Advisory Board. We had the traffic authority was at that meeting, and whether he was going to go or be there to speak to all the options, even looking at potential for expansion of school zones came out as part of that discussion. And I know we're getting into provincial areas and all these things that get more complicated, but I'm just trying to get a handle on how focused this issue was in trying to deal with school zone areas for speeding and control of it. Adding it in so it's all school zones is, certainly serves in that regard, but the speeding issue isn't going away. We're not getting anywhere. So,
Councillor Moore, can you speak to the discussion from police advisory or?
So the discussion was that there's speeding everywhere, as we know, in all school zones. Even we're looking for some help from the province for traffic calming. See if they're willing to help put some signs up, speeding signs in their areas for all areas that are having issues in the speed zone in the school sections. Because it's not just Brooklyn, it's Hantsport, it's 3 Mile Plains, it's everywhere. And it's pretty hard for a municipal body to do much on a provincial road without their input. So every sign that we buy is $5,000 or $6,000. So if they could cost share on some, pick your worst zones and go from there and get a couple, 3 or 4 every year. But it's something they got to be willing to be at the table with us, not just us, right?
So again, we would control 2 of those zones, Hantsport, Windsor, but the question would be the other zones. Councillor Leary Pinch.
I was just going to state I was just reading a paper that there is research to show that digital speed signs does reduce speeding in those areas because it draws the driver's attention. And then they're worried that other people are seeing that they're speeding. It's kind of in a way based on the perception of others, not so much of yourself, but that they were assistive. So if we could get that to happen, I think it would be helpful.
Councillor Francis or
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor, that was a big topic for Windsor Forks. It's a major concern out there, to the point that the residents had purchased their own signs and put along the road to try to slow people down. So Councillor Ivy beat me to the punch, but I support that I would like to see it, not areas, and if a friendly amendment to this motion, as I read it, for the school zones in the West Hants Regional Municipality.
So a motion is made to amend it to read all school zones within West Hants Regional Municipality. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Leary Pinch. Further discussion on the amended motion? Seeing nothing, we'll put that to a vote. Call the question. Motion is passed. Now we're back to the original motion as amended. Any further discussion on the amendment or on the motion? Seeing nothing? Okay, I'll call the question on that as well. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. All right, next up, solid waste bylaw recommendation. Coordinator Lapierre. Been patiently waiting all night long so far. I should have picked up on that. We would have moved you up a little bit.
All good. Good evening. All right. So I am here to recommend that council give first reading and proceed to a public hearing and second reading for the West Hants Regional Municipality Solid Waste Bylaw RO-001, substantially the same as the draft and attachment A of the report as presented at the September 26, 2024 council meeting, which would include the repeal of the municipality of the District of West Hants Solid Waste Management Bylaw and the Town of Windsor Bylaw number 16 Solid Waste Bylaw. So just a bit of background. On September 10th, 2024, we presented the solid waste bylaw to the committee of the whole, and based on discussion from that meeting, there were a few changes that were recommended and considered. Next slide. Deanna. Then on September 26, 2024, a revised draft bylaw was presented to council where Deputy Mayor Morton and Councilor Sherman moved that council approves the new West Hants Regional Municipality Solid Waste Bylaw with the addition of the improved language to ensure that the bylaw reflects the municipality's ability to collect solid waste curbside on private roads. That motion was carried. And then on November 15th, solid waste curbside collection and transportation services on private roads policy recommendation report was presented. That was defeated as well. That did not carry. These are just some of the changes. I'm sure if you've all reviewed them, and if anybody has any questions, I would like to not read through all of them. There are quite a few.
It was in the report, so.
Yeah.
At this point, if there's nothing else, I'll open up for questions to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Coordinator Lapierre. Councilor Remy.
I just had a couple of questions on some of the changes.
Yep.
Through you.
Absolutely.
Mayor, sorry. It's 13D. It just has to do with the scheduling. So it says that solid waste and organic will be bi-weekly. But then it has a recycling collection shall occur as required by the contracted collector. Does that mean it's not going to be bi-weekly any longer?
With the changes coming with circular materials and EPR with PPP, they haven't designated a collection time. It could be weekly, it could be bi-weekly. We aren't quite sure yet. So whatever is designated by them, that's what we will do. So we are left it kind of open in the bylaw to allow that to happen instead of just being bi-weekly.
Cool. And then the only other one I'm just curious about is the transportation of waste. At the end, it says residual waste shall be disposed of at the facility designated by the municipality. Oh, geez, you have it up on the screen. I'm like squinting, trying to read it. The no person should transport outside of the municipality without permission. Who is that referring to? Is that just like our own vehicles, like the waste collectors, or is this like any resident can't take their waste outside of the municipality?
Waste collectors, however, most other municipalities won't receive waste from a separate. So East Hants won't take waste from West Hants, and
so even like individuals can't do that?
Right.
Okay. And permission from the people who are accepting the waste then? Like who are they getting
correct?
permission from?
The facilities is what you mean. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Councilor Leary Pinch.
Just for clarification on the recyclables, because now Councilor Remy has created a question for me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Is that because we're at the mercy of the contractor as to whether it's biweekly or weekly, or is that because it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, how the frequency of the recycle pickup? Through you.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So with EPR, extended producer responsibility, there's a company called Circular Materials that is going to oversee it all. So whether or not they decide to do it weekly or bi-weekly, that is what we are going to go with. Yeah.
Good. Councilor Ivey.
Thank you, Mayor, through you to Jenny.
Hey.
Hey. The cost of private road collection on the private road. So we got that ascertained. I'm not picking up a number on that. So we don't know what that's going to cost us to do that collection or pickup for the private roads.
Not at this time. No, that was defeated. We did not pass that policy.
So the references in here are not specifically to, no.
Correct.
Thank you.
There's still going to be a common collection point.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any further questions to Coordinator Lapierre? If not, we do have a recommendation in your report, Council. We can excuse you now, Coordinator Lapierre. You're off the hot stove.
Thanks.
All right, we do have a recommendation up. If we can get that up on the screen, Clerk Snare. I'll read it off anyways, council. Council give first reading and proceed to a public hearing and second reading for the West Hants Regional Municipality Solid Waste Bylaw RO-001, substantively the same as the draft and attachment A of the report as presented at September 26, 2024 council meeting, which would include the repeal of the Municipality District of West Hants Solid Waste Management Bylaw and the Town of Windsor Bylaw number 16 Solid Waste Bylaw. Somebody wishes to make that motion?
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor Paul Moore.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Any discussion, debate on the motion? Seeing none, I will call the question on council giving first reading, proceeding to a public hearing and second reading for the West Hants Regional Municipality Solid Waste Bylaw RO-001, substantively the same as the draft and attachment A of the report as presented at committee September 26, 2024 council meeting, which would include the repeal of the Municipal District of West Hants Solid Waste Management Bylaw and the Town of Windsor Bylaw number 16 Solid Waste Bylaw. And motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, next up, Councilor Municipal Business Activity Reports. I'll go from one to one. I'll start with you, Deputy Mayor, and we'll work our way around the table.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I had mine inserted with the package, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. Just a couple key points. We are still having concerns from residents with different provincial issues. So I have passed them on to the province. So I just wanted to make it noted, speeding that we discussed earlier, playground signs, with them all being provincial roads are sort of out of our hands. Cell service is a big concern. And I know today I dropped 2 calls just driving on the Wentworth Road extension. And just maybe somewhere in the future, I know Councillor Yanish and I have spoke about this, and unfortunately he's not here this evening, just trying to find out it's federal, but if there is any, I know we have a cell tower that's potentially going up, but I mean, I know the area out in Newport Station would welcome one, because we have residents going outside. Station Food Hub is one of them, and they'll be here in April to do a presentation that, cell service is terrible. Last Thursday, Councillor Ivy and I attended the Let's Talk About Equity, Anti-Racism and Accessibility in Three Mouth Lanes. Just so folks are aware that we sort of took the initiative that we were going to stand back. This was a public engagement, and Jim and I had a little discussion, and we sort of stood back from it. And it was amazing. The residents wanted us to engage. So we did, and we got into that, and it was a lot of conversation happened there. And I think if you can make the time, our MLA was there as well, and her assistant, and residents were very engaged, and a lot of conversation came out of that, and some things I think that will come to council again. The accessibility, it was great to see. I chaired that committee our first time we had it, and to talk to Jordan and them. There's some issues there that I'm hoping that will get brought to council. If not, I'll bring it again. And just to end it off on staff, I've been working with Troy Burgess Mancher and on the woodland development. It's a tough one. We have residents out there who had experienced flooding, and we have recommendations, and I can't thank Troy enough. I know they're looking for some recommendations from council. We're just not there yet. The developer has to do their end. There's a provincial component, but I want to say that it is being worked on, and I appreciate the effort that Manager Burgess, and I'm sure when he sees my number, he can just answer and doesn't have to say hi, because he knows what I'm going to ask. So I just want to say thank you for that. But other than that, that's all I had.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Councillor Scott McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things here. This past Sunday, I attended the Tides of Change Avondale think tank session in Avondale. Very well received and very well attended. Some of the I know the playground was brought up, and that is in the 5-year plan, I guess. I was informed by staff. Still receiving lots of school zone speeding complaints from parents of children who attend the West Hants Middle School and Brooklyn District Elementary School. I know the RCMP have been in the area issuing tickets. We just did a motion there before I voted. I witnessed a few trucks here, 2 days ago, going through there quite fast. And so it's still an issue. I went to the municipal tours back in January 11th. Very well done by staff, and thank you. Seeing all the facilities, and water doesn't just go in and out. There's a big process to treat water. It's quite interesting. I encourage a lot of the residents to take a tour of the facilities, because it's very interesting. Got a proposed 5G cell phone tower in Union Corner. Bring that up. There's a petition that fell in my lap here a couple weeks ago with 70 names on it against it. So that's ongoing. Provincial road issues, Avondale Road, a few complaints on the condition of that. Sent that off to the Department of Public Works, and still a couple issues on the Highway 236 going through Scotch Village with potholes and that kind of thing. And some complaints of speeding trucks going towards the landfill. I've passed that along to the RCMP too. Yeah. So actually, back in December, I attended the Region 6 meeting. I was elected vice chair. The chair is Casey DeLong, councillor of the municipality of the District of Lunenburg. A few motions were put forward by myself. One of them was to deal with the batteries going in the landfills. It's been an issue here in West Hants and municipality of Chester. They're going to take that to regional chairs. And actually, the recycling facility in Scotia Recycling had a fire, actually 2 fires, I believe, back in the fall. So it's a big issue. Yeah, and that's it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Remy.
I submitted the report, so I'm hoping you guys all read it. But yeah, I just wanted to point out some of the resident things. I mean, I will mention that we do have a Valley Run meeting on Monday, so I'm looking forward to that. And I used to work there, so seeing some of my old coworkers, to be honest with you. The school speeding, which was brought up to West Hants. Like Councillor McLean, I was pumping gas there the other day and saw a logging truck come through that was easily doing 70 kilometers an hour going past the Petrocam, which kind of makes your heart stop a little bit. So awesome that that's being addressed. I have had some residents come to me about access to the equipment loan program, but more rural areas. I'm saying more rural, like in Brooklyn and also down on the shore. So I will be bringing forward a recommendation report just to investigate that a little bit. Really, that's it. Everything else is really written down. That's pretty much it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whedon.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of talk about roads in the past few weeks. I've met with residents on different roads, and they brought their concerns through to Public Works. And I know it's the winter time, and there's not really a lot getting done. Road repairs in specific were on Maple Avenue. The residents there have had problems since the flood of 2023. The road needs ditching, it needs paving. The driveways aren't lining up with the road. The road is actually sunk. And there's been a couple of letters written by these residents to Public Works, and just want to make sure that in the spring we can get something rolling on some of these issues. Another road in the district is Davis Road. The residents there say there's more cold mix than asphalt now. Dawson Road is another problem. Needs to have a covered drain at the end of Dawson Road. I don't know if you're familiar with that area, but when you turn up onto Dawson Road, there is probably a 4-foot ditch, and there's no shoulder. It's the pavement and then the ditch. So something has to be addressed there. And I know some of these are provincial roads, some of them are municipal, but the residents don't see it that way. They want something done. And there is quite a bit of concern over that. Also received some information and some residents that were concerned about their PVS assessments. One place in particular, they subdivided their property and built another property, and now the tax assessment has gone up so high that they don't think they can afford to keep the property. I did pass on the PVSC appeal information that PVSC did provide to us when they were here doing their presentation. And unfortunately, that didn't really suffice to them. And they were wondering if council or if any councillors had any advice for them as to what they could do other than an appeal. So I guess basically that's what I'm bringing it up now, is if anyone has any ideas or if there's anything can be done towards that type of thing other than the PVSC appeal. Want to say thank you to the CAO and all the staff for the municipal tours that we did on January 11th, I believe it was, and it was very informative. And I also want to thank Director Richard for his tour of the substation, the lift station down by the behind Councillor Morton's store. It was very informative, and I want to thank the staff, and puts you in a pretty good feeling to see these gentlemen and ladies that work in these divisions. They have a real passion for what they're doing, and makes you feel pretty relieved that we have some good people working on this. So I guess that's about it, other than, as I already mentioned, the announcements, the Winter Carnival Breakfast, February 8th in Ellis House. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Morton. Bob.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Neglected to say during announcements, but Tracy of D&W Swineworks, they celebrated their 25 years of ownership a week ago or so, as a lot of people showed up. I think she said she gave out over 300 slices of cake, so that's fantastic for them. We've got had lots of issues around speeding on the new road, Community Way, and the crossing. Working with Troy on that a bit. He's got some digital signs up and kind of just collecting data to see what will happen there. Lots of conversations with residents about streetlights, so I'm sure many will be happy to see that policy was passed tonight, which is great. Navigating a lot of resident concerns on Burgess Road, just surrounding the water tower build, has been very well done, very organized, just a lot of questions from residents. So I appreciate Director Richard. He's right on the end of my emails, getting 100 of them a day from me, and he's answering right away. So appreciate that, Director Richard. Certainly enjoyed the municipal tours, the part that I took place in. I was certainly amazed by the shape of the trail out in the Brooklyn area. It's been a long time since I ran the Terry Fox run 250 pounds ago, and or 150 pounds ago, but it looks beautiful. It's very well done. Lots of provincial road complaints, so certainly just forwarding those on to Department of Public Works, Provincial Department, and attended Dykeland Lodge meeting a week ago. Happy to report their new build is still on schedule.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Councillor Leary Pinch.
So echoing, I think, the comments of everybody so far about the facility tours, it was enlightening to kind of see some of the background and what has to occur for the water to come out of the tap in your homes. And also to see the trail and experience parts of the municipality where I've spent my entire life that I have yet to see. So it was kind of neat to find those treasured places. So really appreciate the staff and everybody for organizing that. It was a great day. And I think it's wonderful that we are offering that to public too, if they want to reach out, because I do think it helps you have a better understanding of the process and why some of the decisions at this table and some of the discussion occur. So I think it's important, and it's important for the public to know that we're trying to understand too, so that we're making the most evidence-informed decisions. Playground has been mentioned frequently, specifically out in the one portion of my district, which is out in Vaughan. There is no central area for families to participate in recreation, to bring their children together, for them to socialize outside of their home, and the Falls Lake Beach area, which is kind of difficult to access when conditions change and seasons change. So there has been a consistent mention of that throughout the process. It was also mentioned, so perhaps we can work together about the loan program, because I had given that information to a couple of residents, and a handful of those residents returned with, we don't have transport, so we would have to transport in here to retrieve those items and then take them out, and that doesn't happen, and you like taxi cost if you don't. So it's perhaps looking at how we can make that more accessible to the rural areas of the municipality would be fantastic. I don't know what that necessarily looks like, but if we can put our heads together, that would be great. Pickleball. So specifically residents on the other side of my district in Falmouth express a lot of interest in additional spaces or access to additional court time for pickleball. They express that it is a growing sport and that it's getting a lot of people who aren't necessarily picked up in those age ranges with the other sport programs around here involved and active. So seeing what we could potentially do about that, because trying to continue to encourage healthy, active lifestyle for those individuals as well who might, you know, not be out at open turf time kicking the ball around. So that would be great. And concerns about speeding, as I think probably every one of us will mention. It is on a provincial road. Perhaps, Councillor Morton, you could mention this at police advisory or through the CA, I don't know. But Lakeside Variety is the store. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Chester Road, but it is the store that's like halfway in the middle of Vaughan, essentially, and that separates between like Upper and Lower, and the New Ross Road is there. And it is very difficult if you're coming from Chester Way, kilometer speed there is like 90 kilometers, 80 or 90 kilometers. And if someone is from a dead stop pulling out of the store, you can't really see them. So there is some concerns there about the potential for there to be accidents because of people pulling out, because it kind of ends up being like an intersection in a way. So some resident concerns about potentially like reducing the speed and then having a sign in that area so that the vehicles traversing in front of the store wouldn't be traveling as fast when they were going through that area. And it is a very busy, like it is the only access that residents have out there to supplies other than going to Chester or Windsor. So that the store is a happening place most of the time. So there is a lot of traffic flow there. And then finally, that I have applied for an open director position on the NSFM. There are 5 wonderful candidates, so I know that, you know, that the board will be in good hands regardless of who is elected, but that it's an opportunity that I chose to pursue and am learning through the process regardless of outcome.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Councillor Morton, Paul.
So we had a police board meeting last week, and through that meeting, we had talked about speeding in school zones, speeding printer everywhere. Holmes Hill, Bob Road, Chester Road, they're speeding everywhere. I mean, education is one thing, but people got to take some accountability for themselves as well. So with the police board meeting, it's calls to service are up 15% over last year. There's still a lot of mental health calls that we are receiving, and it's tends to be 30 people with 70 calls, roughly, in that area. So it's something they're trying to address through different platforms. So hopefully that will come around. Looks like we're going to have a credit again this year because of the sickness or inability to provide all our policing services at one time. So it looks like about $500,000 CO. That's what I'm remembering. Yes. Yeah. And the body worn cameras are now in effect in West Hants as of December. So the ones they were initially going to buy were outdated before they bought them. So they got the newest model for this month. Be something new again next month, no doubt. And other than that, with the police board, everything is the same, right? Your calls to service are getting more because people are using the police more. And if you don't think it's an emergency, you still call 798-2207 number, and they'll decide whether it's an emergency or not. But there's no sense calling that number 3 days later. If you see something that's not right, call. Then they'll make an educated guess at sending somebody right out, or no, it's just whatever it may be. But please reach out to them at 2207 98-2207. The day of the incident, not 3 days later. It doesn't help them or anybody else. And as far as residents, I'm getting lots of calls on the deer. I mean, there's a dozen deer across my house right now, I can guarantee you. And they're eating everything in sight everywhere. There's a couple that got hit down on Abbott Street a week ago. Like it's a rampage. We had sent that to staff to do some recommendations, and I'll bring it back in the next month or so. Potholes are everywhere. I get a call once a day on the one that's in Kings County, which is just a rock's throw away from Hansport. It's probably big enough now you can get 2 18-wheelers in it and 3 backhoes. And I've reported it myself twice, and they know it's there, but apparently they're not going to fix it. Maybe someday. I even called somebody sitting beside me and get some information there back in September. So, and the last thing I'll bring up is Leah Winter is retiring from the Hansport Library as of Saturday. They're going to have hopefully she's not listening, a little get together 3 to 4 Saturday. So if you can show your support for what she's done for the library and the community, I'm sure she'd be grateful.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. John.
Thank you. So speeding, that's continues to be an issue. I did get a call about a street light, so that's positive. It shows that people are listening. And it was already previously mentioned, there is music at the Falmouth Hall on Friday nights. If you own an instrument or if you just like to listen, drop in. I'd like to congratulate Krista Boyd and the Hockey Heritage Committee for the great weekend they planned. I attended some of the events and it was very, very good. It's already been mentioned it's pothole season already. Just encourage the public to contact Public Works. If you can take a picture of the pothole and the civic address, that helps as well. And lastly, I'd just like to say congratulations to Joe's Menswear on 50 years of business. And that's it.
Councillor Smith, Bonnie.
So January 13th, Councillor Ivy and myself met with a couple on Gray Street who are also seriously affected by the heavy rains and affected by CSO when we have the torrential downpours. We listened to what they had to say about their community, how much they love it here, and just struggling with the fact that they may have to leave if a solution can't be found. So right after that meeting, we decided we wanted to have a meeting, just have a tour of the lift stations downtown, as Councillor Whedon mentioned already. So on January 16th, Councillors Whedon, Ivy, and myself met with Director Richard, Manager of Public Works Operations Troy Burgess, and Supervisor of Water Distribution and Wastewater Collection, that's a long title, Ashley Smith. They gave us a tour of the lift stations 1 and 7 and the newer sewer treatment facility. We just asked for this tour to get a better understanding of how the system works, and we really encourage any citizens that want to go and have a look. They are more than willing to show you around, just so you know how things work. And then finally, the warming center is operating 7 nights a week with between 8 and 14 people overnight at the center. A few more who just drop in to warm up and get a hot drink, shower, maybe charge their devices. The warming center was able to stay open during the daytime hours on Christmas Day and New Year's Day with their wonderful volunteers, ensuring that people had a warm place to stay while most places were closed during those days. So just a huge shout out to all the volunteers at the center. That's it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of duplicate points here, but aside from the general committee meetings and such, also was fortunate to be able to participate in the tour of the facilities, which, if not already listed, included the fire department, the town offices, Falmouth Wastewater, Windsor Water Treatment Plant, Back Road, 3 Mile Plains, the Brooklyn Civic Center and Fire Station, along with the former Dar rail line, and the Public Works facility in the industrial park. That was quite a series of facilities that we got to see in a concentrated period of time, to be honest with you. And it was wonderful to see, even though having seen them before, seeing them the second time, you see with a different set of eyes and lens, and specifically given what we're seeing now as it relates to, we can reference water rates and or sewer overflows and the like, that you are looking at that equipment with a different set of eyes altogether, and the impact, and as well as the work that goes into maintaining and running and operating those facilities. So very appreciative of that and the time that was taken. As Councillor Bonnie Smith had identified here, we met with residents of Gray Street, and she gave a very good accounting of the concerns and how they were expressed. Was fortunate to be able to catch up with Will Hong and Planner Dunphy for potential rezoning on King Street, R1 to R2 through a development agreement. A property that you drive by frequently. Anybody that lives in Windsor, you're going in and out of King Street at some point, and many others as well. But it's a property that you've seen there forever, and it's just interesting to see what they're looking to do with that property. And look forward to seeing that coming formally in through the planning process. Also, the visit on the waterfront, and I must apologize. I for some, it must have been the aroma on the waterfront that I picked up inside that I noted it was Debbie with us, but it wasn't. It was Bonnie. Along with Paul Whedon. But it was tremendous, again, to get back inside those facilities. I thought Pump Station 1 took us down underground, and I've always seen it that way, but it's not. It's right there on the main level. It's Pump Station 7 that you go deep down into the basement of the system. So very good to see and understand how that storm and sewer water flows into that facility and then gets along. It was, for all that we've talked about, it was still very educational. A lot of calls and discussions over the last month with residents and businesses, variety of matters, budget considerations, tax rates, expectations for reductions as the numbers have been out from PBSC. And so with the increase in assessment and, was to figure that part out, which we'll have a conversation about. All of these sessions, whether it's with residents or staff, serve to provide insight into the decisions we make here. And I think we'd all agree it's been even very helpful hearing everybody here talk about the items and issues they have here around this table. I'd forgotten about the difficulty out at the Lakeside Variety and getting in and out of there as to how that can be. There's a lot of places like that we have in the region that we could all be highlighting. So that's the core on those sessions, staff time appreciated. Upcoming sessions that we have, I know I put a note in here that one, there's the workshop, and two, there's a planning or strategy session, and the workshop is the one where we'll get some insight into cost and scope of how big our storm situation is. I'd like us to consider whether that be rearranged and reversed on the order, but it's just hard to fathom how we might do that. And then the other item that I've got noted here, I've got two items to close out on. One is at planning, we got to see the initial rollout of what's the initial phase of the Housing Accelerator Plan. But what was noted in there for me is that this is an increase in density to get us the general density flowing through, get more roofs over people's heads. But we didn't incorporate in the pre-existing climate action plans. And it's significant when you go back and look through those. And that's the reason putting the link in there to give us all the chance to pre-read what those climate action plans looked like 10 years ago. And the recommendations that were there for control of development and the like, just so we're aware of that when it lands here, because the timeline on this is going to end up being very tight. We've got to be done with this new initiative coming through by the end of March. So in that regard, I just think it's worth it. Anything we can read in advance on that would be a good thing to do. And then the final note, as has been done here already, is a congratulations to the Windsor Hockey Heritage Society, Crystal Loy and her team for all they did with that fantastic event that they had this weekend. Everybody there was enjoying it, whether they're young, old, and it was just a great event all around. That's my report, and thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, council, it's 8:16, so we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and do the second half of the meeting. All right, so we'll be back in 10 minutes. We're good. All right, welcome back, everybody. It is 8:29 on Tuesday, January 28th, and we'll resume this session of West Hants Regional Municipality Council after our break. We are at the section of the agenda where we're on correspondence. So we have the Avon Causeway activity log as of January 24th, so there is nothing new or updated since our last piece of correspondence on that. General correspondence received to this point. Denise Forend add exceptions to the new proposed land use documents. Letter from Minister Maslin regarding moving towards consistent and impactful emergency response. Response from Prime Minister regarding a request for financial assistance to support a property buyout. And Garth Hazel regarding fire director or administrator. Is there anything anybody wishes to bring up on those pieces of correspondence? Councillor Morton, Paul.
Yeah, I'll bring up the Gareth Hazel one where it was dropped out to myself. Just wondering where we are in that process, CEO.
Thank you, Counselor. So this is kind of a carryover from the previous council, I think. So I know it was my intent to revisit this during our strategy or budget deliberations to see if that's the direction where this council wants to go. However, if there's any concern or something you might want to speak to more specifically about performance or whatever, that may be more appropriate for in camera. But the added resource was something that we would revisit during strategy and budget deliberations. Which was my thought. So if you wanted to handle that differently, I'm open to any suggestion.
Good with that right now? Okay. Councillor Ivey. No, you're good. All right, we'll move on to the second set of correspondences. Wind farm correspondence received as of the 24th of January as well. So Sana Amin regarding local economic impact of Nova Scotia wind projects. Seamus Marriott regarding MPS visual intrusiveness. And Department of Municipal Affairs regarding West Hants Regional Municipality planning strategy and land use bylaw amendments. One of those we've discussed. We're all in the same generality anyways. So if there's anything further, we can take them now. All right, we'll move on. We have a couple of requests here, Council. First one is the St. Croix Community Club regarding funding request. Councillor Whedon, I think you said you wanted to speak to that one.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is in my district, and I'm a big supporter of all the halls, as you know, and the St. Croix Community Hall is no exception. It's an older building, and they've been doing quite a bit of work there. They do a lot of fundraising, and they're asking us for some help. They have some projects on the go to pass their fire inspection. And I believe the numbers were $1,000 for some piping and work on a wall, $960 for some chimney work, and they had to do some work to their well, which was $2,993. So they're coming in at just under $5,000 that they have spent. They are going to have some things coming down the road. They plan to remove some of the paneling on the walls. They've had some leakage. They're going to have to take it right down to the cinder blocks and do some work from there. That is down the road, though. So right now, what they're looking for is some help from council to take care of the repairs that they have done to pass their inspection. And if it's all right, I'd like to make a motion on that.
Sure.
Excuse me. I move that council approve an amount of up to $5,000 to undertake the emergency upgrades to the St. Croix Community Club, and this to be funded through the Canada Community Building Fund.
Is there a seconder to that?
Second.
I got multiple, but I've heard Councillor Bonnie Smith here. So seconder has been made. Is there a discussion on the motion? Director Rashawn?
So through your worship, repairs are not fundable through the Canada Community Building Fund. So my recommendation would be that we fund it through the operating reserve.
So we'll just make that friendly amendment.
Sounds good. We'll fund it through the operating reserve instead.
You're okay with that, Councillor Smith?
Thank
All
you,
right.
Director.
All right, further discussion on the motion. Councillor Smith?
I just had a question,
Sure.
but I'm not sure if you would know or not. Do you know if they apply for grants like through the Community Facility Improvement Program, specifically through the province?
I'm not sure exactly what grants they do apply for. I just know that they asked for our assistance in this specific set of invoices.
Any further questions, discussion? Seeing nothing, I'll call the question on the motion put forward to fund some repairs for the St. Croix Community Club up to $5,000. The motion is passed. Thank you very much. We do have a petition against proposed cell phone tower location received. It was in the package. I think noted earlier over 70 names on that. Councillor Scott McLean.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I just want to give a little background on it. There's 70 names, 65 names on here, and then there was another one that came through today. Fell in my hands here a couple of weeks ago. I put it on as a request. Basically, I'm not against cell service, but this is my district. I have a lot of residents reaching out about it. They're against it in that proposed parcel of land. It's 90 meters high proposed, within 100 meters of the closest home. So that leaves 10 meters, if something did happen to it, it's 10 meters from your house. So if it fell over or whatever. So I'm kind of at the will of council. What do they want to do with it? I can put it off to February's committee of the whole and bring it back as a council request, or I have a motion here drafted possibly if you want to entertain that.
If you want to let us know your motion, then we can hear that out. And
council direct the CAO to write a letter asking Shared Tower to relocate the proposed 90 meter cell phone tower in Union Corner to another suitable site.
Okay, that's the motion made by Councillor Scott McLean. Is there a seconder to that? Councillor Ivy.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, moved seconded by Councillor Ivy. Discussion. I got 3 lights went on quickly there. Councillor Ivy. All right, Councillor Morton. Paul.
So I guess my question is to CEO or whomever can answer. What's our role in this as a municipal body compared to the provincial body? Do we have any say in it? Are we spinning our tires again down the road as the windmills?
Okay, thank you. I think Director starts with Director Poirier, and I believe Acting Director Fougier has commented that, and we have had some back and forth with legal counsel on this to make sure we have further confirmation that that our role is jurisdictionally is not to approve or not to approve, but to comment on compliance, and specifically with respect to setback and distances. And again, if I'm not quoting either the directors specifically, apologies. But that in-house, in the absence of the expertise that's identified within, and someone here may have better terminology, that our development officer is deemed to be the authority of the municipality to make comment on setback compliance, for example. So operationally, we're confident with that, again, with some back and forth with the solicitor. And our development officer has sent a letter and made comment to the jurisdiction in charge, I understand to be at the federal level, that for the matters we are to consider, we have considered them, and there is a level of compliance with the location. But it is ultimately up to, it is not the jurisdiction of the municipality to rule on that, unlike other matters. So that being said, we've made comment, but we're not the ultimate jurisdiction. Now, councilors put something on the floor, which I would deem to be more in a realm of advocacy than necessarily policy infringement or something to that effect. So, again, I think you folks all have the benefit of the emails that we're sharing around about that. And I don't believe that staff feel we have any further jurisdiction on the matter. But advocacy is a tool at your disposal.
Councillor Leary Pinch.
I guess then through you, Mayor, to CEO, you probably can't answer this. There isn't a way to make it so that it's not like 10 meters from a house on that same parcel of property. I'm not knowledgeable of the area, so. But I guess it's not up to us to decide where it goes anyways, so perhaps we could even advocate whether it be a different site or moving it to a different location on the same site, we could advocate for.
Bit of a history with this particular company, as a matter of fact, with the municipality. It's been a number of years for which this company has been trying to find a location. Of course, we have topography that we need to deal with, and vegetation and all these other variables that make a site a good site. It's very much a relationship with property owners, of which if we were one and had, in fact, we did do a lot of research around the fire hall, too low, and variable. We had a lot of consultations with them and private property owners trying to find a site. And I would say this is where they've landed, but it's very much a decision of the property owner to establish that relationship and that contractor. So it's within those parties' rights to do so. If there is an alternative location, I think everybody would like to know where that is. Again, we have done a lot of research in trying to play Cupid, if I could use that as a term, your worship, just trying to match people up with potential landowners, topography, and so forth. So that's where they have landed today.
One more follow out of curiosity, would that cell tower be used to like assist residents within the municipality with their cell service, or does it have a specific function outside of mobility customers?
Yep. My understanding of the company is that, they're in the business of establishing cell towers, and then they go to the service providers and essentially lease the space on the tower. Of course, not to get too far off topic, but we have Build Nova Scotia that's engaging in a cellular improvement plan for the province, like the rural internet or the rural internet service, where again, they will go out and map it out and generally identify where improvements need to be made. And then they will, as part of their process, for whomever is awarded the contract, let's say it's company X, they go out and they do essentially what Shared Tower has been doing as part of the build out of the cellular network around the province. And they'll have to have a lot of those same conversations, negotiations with property owners to try to establish, as Shared Tower did and has been doing. So we have more of this as a province ahead of us, as the networks identify where the best sites are, and then where you try to have as little conflict as you can with property owners. So
I had everybody written down who had lights on, so don't think you're at the next up would be Councillor Ivey here.
Thank you, Chair. We're all copied on the emails coming in. We're seeing them. They began before this term. And so there's a lot of this back and forth. And it's really specific detail that by and large appears to be out of our jurisdiction. If I can, sorry, Mayor, through you, if I can say, Scott, I loved, because I know that the residents in your area are concerned about this, as they would be in any area, as we see, no different than windmills and the like, when you've got larger structures than you're used to in a rural environment and, showing up to this. But to be able to support this, no different than supporting motions that just come in on funding and financing and so on. That's why notice of motion is in there, right? And so that's where on this, honestly, it's my opinion to go through the information that we've received in that correspondence and trying to find an angle that any letter that the CAO could or would write as for advocacy would have the ability to have an angle to Councillor Pinch's question here, the ability to shift it so the 10 feet is adjusted if that was possible. And I don't know that it is, but it's to try and find that way so that the letter of advocacy actually has a chance of going through and getting some attention versus not. And for that reason, with this, and they've given us this position, I would recommend, if I could say it that way, is doing up a report that puts that angle in front of us that we could vote on in 2 weeks' time. Versus right now asking the CAO to write this letter is, I'm concerned that we're going to be, just blowing in the wind. But that would be my suggestion on it for what it's worth. I'd like to be able to support you with this, but right now with what we have here and everything we've seen in writing, we're not going to be able to do that. for what it's worth. It's important to know that
Councillor Whedon.
Thank you, Mayor. Just this place where they propose to put it, I'm sure there's been great studies and great public hearings about this, but is there another area? There hasn't been, or there has been?
They've been searching for a while, so the issue is finding a willing landowner.
So it's on private land? Okay. So there hasn't been anybody that's jumped forward and say, hey, I want to have this on my land. No one has come forward that wants this. So the land that's going on now is privately owned?
Privately owned.
And the person that owns the land wants it there, but the people who live near that area are worried about the setbacks. And again, to Councillor Leary Pinch's question is, can it not be moved within that parcel to accommodate those houses? Seems like it would be the easiest thing to do.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar to Councillor Ivy, I couldn't support the motion as is, because if we advocate for the CAO to write a letter to them to move it, we could have the same problem. They move it 5 kilometers down the road. I think there has to be a better advocacy if that's what we're doing. We have no jurisdiction, and it would be great to find something. I know, as I said in my report, Newport Station is looking for something. You know, if we can look at something out there on the old Newport Station Hill that we own or something. But I just don't think with what we have in front of us to write them a letter and say to move it, look for the letter's gonna sit on the desk. I think we need to add more to it, bring it something back to committee of the whole. And at the end of the day, I really don't think we have any jurisdiction. I don't think it's going to make any difference. If we've already given our comment as a level of confidence there, our staff has done it, then there's really, other than writing a letter to support the residents, is all we're doing. Just my thought.
Before I get to you, Councillor McLean, it's important to understand the process as well. It's a regulatory body that our involvement is commenting on whether it meets setbacks or not. We don't do public hearings on this. There is no other authority for the municipal unit in regards to this. But with saying that, Councillor McLean, you've heard the comments, so we'll go back to you now at this point.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd pull the motion and I'll bring it back in February's committee of the whole and with more information.
Perfect.
And we can discuss it then.
That okay with the seconder?
It's okay with the seconder. Yeah.
You're good. All right. So we'll pull that and we'll look for a report at February there. All right. All right. Outgoing correspondence. We have nothing new in there. All right. So we'll move on to new business council. And first up, fiber network extension to Hansport Fire Department Station recommendation report. Director Rochon.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report was circulated in your package. So I know we have a long agenda. I will highlight just a couple of key points. This has been in the capital budget. We have been working with VCFN on this project. We received a quote from VCFN for the running of the fiber, and that is going to put us over budget. Hence why I am before council right now requesting that we get an additional amount plus contingency to allow for any unforeseen things that pop up with the move of the equipment from the old town hall in Hansport to the new fire station.
Okay. So are there questions to Director Rochon on the report? Council at this point? Any items of clarity needed? Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Your Worship, through Director Rochon. So this is solely to extend the line. I'm assuming, are we disconnecting it from the other property? Is that correct? And just rolling it down the street to the fire department, or?
So again, this is coordinated through VCFN and it's their lines that they're running. So I would have to check with their staff on if that was something that they requested a disconnection for. But we are moving all of our equipment from the old town hall to the fire station. So there will be no equipment set up in there, and we own all that equipment that's being transferred.
Gotcha. Okay. The part of the reason for asking the nature of the move is we'd had the folks in here last week with HMCC that has a $5,000 annual bill on internet service, and so complicating matters would be looking to get a line while moving this one at the same time strung into them where they operate. And I don't know where they're at on the street there, but we have this network. I don't want to take us off topic. Yours is the prime thing here, but when we look at things like this, we should be looking at other areas where we could be doing the connection at the same time. More efficient to do it. We ultimately own the line at the end of the day. Once they string it, if it's ours, we're paying the lease on it. Yeah, so I support getting it down. It's part of capital, but if there's other opportunities there along that street in Hansport that we could be taking advantage of, it's worth considering those when they come up. Thank you.
Councillor Morton, Paul.
Just a little background for everybody here. The people that own the building that was a former town hall in Hansport have reached out to me twice now. They do not want that fiber on their building anymore. They've been wanting to move for the last year. So they've asked us politely twice to move it. They are selling the building. It's not our building they had the fiber on anymore. And they would want it moved ASAP a year ago.
Councillor Larry Pinch.
So we're all going to find out how vast my knowledge is on fiber op. Do we have to pay for it to be run because it's not currently accessible in Hansport? Like everybody doesn't have access to the fiber op cable? This is the part that I don't understand, why we're paying for the cable to be run down the street, because I know like I have access to that and I didn't pay for the cable to be run. So this is where my confusion comes from.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it in 30 words.
Yeah, you can.
I can do it in 30 words.
I'm going to give the long-winded
The
one.
Valley Community Fiber Network was conceived before high-speed internet was in the valley.
Okay.
A group of municipalities and university and NSCC all saw the benefit, and the line was laid and utilized for high speed. It's been used ever since by those partners and expanded a little bit, tentacles here and there, for municipal benefit and or community benefit. Of course, since that time, high speed has arrived and even surpassed, maybe, if you believe in satellites and where we're headed. So it exists as a piece of infrastructure that we use, but generally it's not available to the public because it's not been rolled out that way, arguably because industry came along and provided it.
For you. So is there a reason we can't use what industry now provides? And we can,
Yep.
Okay.
In some cases, we do. In some of our facilities here and there and one-offs. In fact, we're electing for Starlink, even in some of our, I think our water treatment facility now versus versus running fiber. But as Councillor Ivey is highlighting, this is still a necessary piece of the network. It just used to be on public property. Now it's on private property because we sold the building. We need to move it. If there's an opportunity for people to benefit from it between point A and B, we could consider that. But generally, yes, industry is providing high-speed internet. But it's not to say there's not an argument. And as the new member of VCFN, Councillor Remy has heard at least one thought around how the VCFN could be used moving forward, but yet to see a business plan and what the decision is. So we're basically using a system that's been in place for a long time to the benefit of the municipality and its partners, because we do have reduced internet usage or cost because of its existence. Now, when the day it expires or it needs significant upgrades, will be do you fix this thing or do you go with service provider? What's the commitment? But for now, we benefit from it. We continue to use it, and occasionally we have to do something to it. In this case, we're just moving it.
I think council in the previous term has had the discussion of how do you monetize or how do you look at creating a business model, but Councillor Morton.
Just for a little more background, it's called the Hansport Mesh. So people that can't afford internet around there can access it. And visitors coming in have a way to access the internet to look for things in our area. And Windsor has the same thing. I don't know if they call it Windsor Mesh or not.
There's one in Brooklyn Mesh.
Yeah.
So.
And that's all of VCFN?
Yep. Public Wi-Fi. Yep.
All right. Any other questions to Director Rochon on the report? Seeing nothing, we do have a recommendation there, which reads, council approves an additional $13,425.35 to be used towards fiber network extension to Hansport Fire Station from the West Hants Regional Municipality Operating Reserve.
So moved.
Moved by Deputy Mayor.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Paul Moran. Further discussion on the motion? No lights popping on, so I'll call the question on the approval of additional $13,425.35 to be used towards the fiber network extension to Hansport Fire Station from the West Hants Regional Municipality Operating Reserve. If we can put that vote up on the screen, Clerk Snare. Thank you very much. And motion is passed. Thank you very much. Next up, Climate Action Committee Citizen Member Appointment Recommendation Report. Clerk Snare.
Thank you. Through your worship, before you this evening is a recommendation report to appoint Jamie Judo as citizen member to the committee for the term starting January 28th, 2025 until January 31st, 2027. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions to Clerk Snare on the recommendation? Deputy Mayor.
I was going to make the recommendation if there's
Sure.
no questions.
Sure.
Council approves Jamie Juto be appointed to the Climate Action Committee for the term January 28th, 2025 to January 31st, 2027.
Moved by
Second.
Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Any questions on the motion? Okay, no lights. I'll call for the question on the approval of Jamie Juto to be appointed to the Climate Action Committee for the term January 28, 2025 to January 31st, 2027. Motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. And we have Diverse and Inclusive Communities Committee recommendation.
Thank
Clerk
you,
Snare.
Your Worship. Through you to the rest of council. Earlier this evening, council appointed members to the Diverse and Inclusive Communities Committee. Regrettably, at that time, the report presented for consideration, the West Hants Regional Municipality had received no expressions of interest to fulfill the youth vacancy on the committee. Since the last meeting, Stafford Advisor Youth has expressed interest and a desire to be a representative on this committee, and which has resulted in the recommendation before you to appoint Matea Sexton to the Diverse and Inclusive Communities Committee for the term January 28th, 2025 to October 31st, 2026. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Clerk Snare. Questions to Clerk Snare? Councillor Leary Pinch.
Not a question.
No
sorry.
question. You want to make a motion on it?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I'll move the recommendation that council approves Matea Sexton be appointed to the Diverse and Inclusive Communities Committee for the term January 28th, 2025 to October 31st, 2026.
Moved by Councillor Leary Pinch, seconded by Deputy Mayor Francis. For the discussion, debate on the recommendation. Seeing no lights, I'll call the question on the approval of Matea Sexton to be appointed to the Diverse and Inclusive Communities Committee for a term January 28, 2025 to October 31st, 2026. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. Great recommendations and approvals on both those committees, Council. So that's quite exciting to see. We are at the point of the meeting where we are in camera. So if I can have a motion to go on camera, if Council wishes to do so.
Second.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Francis, seconded by Councillor Paul Moore, and all those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed, motion is passed unanimous. Thank you very much. I'm unsure if we will be coming back on meeting after, if any recommendations come from those in camera, but if so, we will pop back. We can't give you a time, but if anybody is watching at home, just please stay tuned.